This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to a chilly Sabi Sands Game Reserve. It's 18 degrees Celsius, 61 Fahrenheit. My name is Brent Smith. I have Senzorm Keys on camera. And the weather is really going up and down. Yesterday was a scorcher. And when I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning, the stars were out in full force. And in about 25 minutes, this large cloud bank just rolled over. But hopefully it'll keep the big cats on the move. So what we're going to do is, Tristan said there was a report of Hukumuri coming into Vuyatela last night. So we're going to check the western sections to see if we have any luck with Hukumuri. Now, I haven't seen Hukumuri since I've been back yet. And I'm hoping to find him. Now, let us send you across to Tristan, who started his birding in the dark.
We have started birding in the dark because we have this beautiful silhouette of a saddle-billed stork that is up against a pink stormy sky, which is a perfect way to start our morning. I think it's a wonderful shot. Well done, Sebastian. My name is Tristan, as Brent mentioned, and on camera I've got Sebastian this morning. It's always wonderful to be on a vehicle with Sebastian. He brings good luck, so hopefully that means that we're going to see lots of amazing things. Also hope that you guys are going to chat to us a lot during the course of the morning. Remember to do so on #SafariLive or at FC on the YouTube chat, and remember to keep it relevant. Right, now the plan for the morning is we're not going to be just sitting with our saddlebilled stork all morning. We are going to head to the eastern side of the reserve for two reasons. One is that Tingana last night, I left him still at Buffelshoek Dam. Funny enough, can you believe it, he went to his old carcass that Hosanna kind of turned his nose up at a few days ago and started to scoff that down. And so he was eating that when I left him at about 8 o'clock last night, or 8:15 last night. He was still kind of feeding on that. And so I'm going to hope to see maybe he just lay up around Buffelshoek Dam. It didn't seem like he was in overly big hurry to move around. The other reason why I want to head that way is because there was a herd of buffalo that crossed in from the south, and there was tracks for the Nkuhuma Pride on Torchwood, so you never know what might have happened there. So that's the kind of plan for the morning. We're going to check the eastern side. I know Brent is going to be on the western side. I know he's looking for Hukumuri, and well, I'll be jealous if he finds him because I haven't really seen Hukumuri. I know yesterday morning we did. Turns out it was him on the termite mound with that very poor visual, but it was such a bad visual that, you know, you can't really say I saw him, and I haven't seen him since I was in Kenya, which is now a long time. So I'll be jealous if Brent finds him, but, you know, it is one of those things. Right, the light is so poor that poor Sebastian can't really get a very good shot of close-up of our saddle-billed stork. So we're going to carry on. We're going to leave our stork to carry on grooming itself. I'm pretty sure it's the same one that we keep seeing at Buffelshoek Dam. Unfortunately, yesterday it got disturbed by the fact that there was a leopard moving about at the dam, and that meant that this poor stork had to kind of go and find a different place to go and rest up. What was interesting yesterday, funnily enough, is while I was sitting with Tingana waiting for him to wake up from his slumber and then go off to go and feed off that kill, we saw a purple heron, of all things, come past, which was quite nice. I mean, we don't see purple herons very often in this area. Well, I certainly haven't seen many at Djuma, and there was one that just kind of came over, landed very briefly at Buffelshoek Dam. The saddle-billed stork chased it away, and then it flew off, and that was it, gone. So bit of a kind of an interesting one. You know, like I say, we don't really see them all that often. Some of you might be asking, what is a saddle-billed stork? I mean, a purple heron. Well, I'll show you. Give me 2 seconds and I'll find it quickly on my app. I'm sure we have seen them before on Drive. I would imagine that we must have seen them before. They're not that uncommon in the Kruger region. If you find river systems like the Sand and Sabi River, well, they're all over the place there, but don't see them that often up here at Djuma. We just don't have the water resources for it. But it's a beautiful bird, so that's what it actually looks like. It's got this kind of striping that comes down the neck area, and then it's this sort of rufusy coloration to it. So they really are a pretty bird. I'm just going to scroll and see if we can find another shot of them maybe out in the open. There we go. Those are probably better examples of that striping that I was talking about on the actual neck area, and then that yellow beak, and that's when they're in flight. So some examples of what a purple heron looks like. Maybe it came from Chitwa Dam. I have seen them there before. But it was very nice. I was quite surprised that we saw them. We also had an epic sighting of bats last night. So we were sitting at Buffelshoek Dam, and Tingana was on his little perch on top of that mound and was having a really good rest, and he was kind of sleeping, and we were just kind of watching as the sun was setting, and you know you get that beautiful kind of orangey blue light just before that darkness kind of closes in. And so we were sitting and we were kind of watching and paying attention to that, and as that started to happen, all these bats started to come out, and we must have had, I don't know, probably easily 30 to 40 bats flying around, and they were all coming in, and there was a certain little puddle that was just to the kind of edge of the dam, and all of them, just one after another, were coming down and just drinking, and it was like a procession. They'd almost line up like you would see at an airport where everybody kind of lines up to land or take off, and then they would just come in one after another. It was very, very cool to see, and one by one they drank, and then they started to hunt all the insects that were hatching off Buffelshoek Dam and kind of go in and out and around, and it was very, very cool. And we had a few different species there. There was two that I recognized. So there was the Wahlberg's epauletted fruit bat, which is quite a large bat, has these little white flecks on its shoulder, which was quite nice. And then there was two of the tomb bat species that were also flying around, which is slightly smaller. So it was very cool to kind of see them all mixing and matching and sort of flying about. There's also actually Egyptian freetails were also flying around last night too, so it was very cool. So it was such a beautiful evening at Buffelshoek Dam. I sat there and absolutely enjoyed just sitting and kind of in the peace and quiet. It was very, very pleasant. Anyway, while we carry on towards the eastern side, Brenty must be getting close to the western side of the reserve, and so let's go back across to him and see if he's got any signs of the hukkaburi.
Well, not yet. So what Tris said is he came in from One Eye Pan, which is almost due west of us from here, but there's some big game paths that the leopards and lions like to use, and of course this time in the morning the tracking light is not great, so we're just going incredibly slowly, and I'm using my spotlight upside down and shining it on the road to try throw a bit of shadows if there are any decent tracks. But so far, no sign. He could have ducked through towards Impala Road, but we just want to rule out the northwestern corner. Here's one of the game paths. No. To make sure he hasn't popped through here towards Buffelshoek cut line. But so far we've got no tracks. Remember, hashtag SafariLive. If you want to get your questions through to us, you can also pop them on the YouTube chat below this live feed. Because yes, we are live, hence the name SafariLive. Tony Two Toes is wondering, is it difficult to keep track of time in the bush? Days, months, years, etc. I don't know, I've not really thought about it. You can definitely lose a day easily, and when it comes to dates, yes, I suppose it is quite easy to lose track of time, but time beats to a different drum out here, so it's more I suppose the time as such and days and months are more focused on the seasons, and we only really have 2 seasons, which is hot and wet and cold and dry, or cool and dry. It doesn't really get cold. Okay, so this is the last big animal path, and there's still no sign of Hukamuri's tracks. Let's have a look here, see if he crossed the road here. I think he's ducked down towards Impala Road. I'm just going to make sure, as I check a little bit further down this road, but I suspected he probably did that. But you always want to make sure, you want to rule out an area as quickly as possible while tracking. So even though the light's quite low, this is quite a sandy road, so it's always a good one to check. Just have a look here. This is the last little spot I wanted to check carefully. Okay. Nope, no sign of the hook. Okay, I'm going to turn around, head towards Impala Road. While we do that, Tristan has found some great grey beasts.
We have indeed. It's very dark and very dingy, and it's unfortunately too far even for our infrared to be in range, and so we are unfortunately going to have a bit of a grainy image. So we're going for an RT picture or a Brent Leo Smith special this morning, and we're going to try and see how long it will last. Hopefully you'll get a bit of light soon. It's gotten quite overcast and the cloud has dropped a little bit, and that's meaning that it is quite dark this morning. Interesting weather that we're having at the moment. You know, we've had hot weather, then we had this weekend of cold and rain, and then it was hot yesterday again out of nowhere, and now back to this cold kind of weather. And I believe that we're supposed to get some big storms over the next 2 days. Now, Dory, these kind of clouds, not proper big rain for us. This is generally could be sort of frontal rain, which is normally soft kind of drizzle like what we had on the weekend. It's generally not very much. We normally get you'll get 4, 5, 6, 7 mils out of it, 10 millimeters of rain maybe. You know, this is not the big rains. When you start to see those big cumulonimbus clouds forming like we did yesterday, and they start to kind of build into thunderstorms, that's when we start to really get proper rain, and you'll get the sort of some storms that can easily drop down. You know, they'll drop 2-3 inches of rain if it's really kind of one of those big ones, and that's what we really need. We haven't had a massive storm like that in probably, I would say, 4 or 5 years now. So, you know, hopefully we do get a really big one and fill up all the dams. You know, we are desperate at the moment. No, sorry about that, everybody. It's a small little glitch that we had to just sort out quickly, and so Conrad is working his genius and managing to get everything kind of fixed and back up and running. So I forgot where we were, Kirsty. What were we talking about? We were talking about rain, weren't we? And the dryness, yes. So it's been a very dry time, and hopefully all of the dams will fill up again and we'll get a bit of water. It'll obviously be, you know, tricky in terms of game viewing because it becomes a lot thicker and a lot more difficult to negotiate these areas as well as to view animals and track animals, but it's vitally important for next year and the years coming that we do get some good rains, because we still haven't recovered at all from this drought that we've had over the last couple of years. So, you know, it'll be good if we get some good rains. It's amazing how we say these things, because back in 2011, 2012, you cursed the rains. You just wished that you would not see any more rain, because this area was just so flooded and everything was big and tall. The grass was super long, the bush was super thick. There was, you know, it was just a mess all over the place, and it was incredibly difficult to get around this reserve. I remember the 2012 flood. It was a nightmare. At one point, the only road that you could drive really on a game drive was Gowrie Main and Triple M, so the two really big roads, and even they were not kind of that great. You couldn't really cross the Mulwati and the Mulwanini easily, and so it was a really tough time to kind of get around. Every time you off-road, you got stuck, and so, you know, kind of easily forget about those days, and they will come again. You generally find in this kind of area that there's these 10-year cycles that take place, so it'll be dry for, or a sort of increase in dryness, a peak, and then down, a decrease, and then it starts to go into a wet cycle, which will be sort of the same. And it's obviously not every time is 10 years, but it's a rough kind of graph that they've put together over the last sort of 100 years of the Kruger history. It tends to flow in these kind of 10-year wet dry cycles that come through. And so, you know, we should be starting to go on the downside now of this drought period, and should theoretically get wetter summers as we go forward. So Mike and Michelle, not as far as I know. I certainly, in the time that I've been here, we've not had snow, and we haven't had any frost either. but it might have happened. Maybe Brent will know if there has been, but I don't think so. We're very low lying here, and so for snow to happen here would be very tricky. I mean, it would have to be extreme weather. On the Drakensberg mountain range, which is that mountain range, I'm sure Brent will be able to show you. He's on the western side of the reserve, so he probably's got a better view of it than what I do at the moment. But there's the Drakensberg mountain range. We do get snow up on there quite regularly in the winter months, so it is possible, but I never down here in the Sabi Sands in the low-lying areas. I think we're just too low for the snow to actually fall properly. But you never know, maybe in time, the way weather's changing and the patterns of weather have changed, it could possibly kind of come down at some point. What's really interesting about our weather patterns is, I remember when I first started coming into this area when I was a small child with my grandparents, there was very defined seasons here. So you used to have a very defined summer, very defined autumn or fall, defined winter, and then spring, and then you'd have, and the process would repeat. Now, we tend to find that we get quite extended sort of summer periods and winter periods with very short falls and springs, in fact, almost non-existent, either one of those. And then, the rain system has also changed quite a lot. We used to get a lot of rain kind of falling in two periods, one in the sort of beginning of summer, which would be now the September-October period, and then another big kind of downpour in the January-February period. And what seems to have happened over the last few years is that seems to have kind of changed altogether. We're seemingly getting rain later now, so we're getting rain more in the sort of Jan-Feb area a little bit, and then the really kind of substantial rains, if you want to call it substantial, or the rains that have been the most through the kind of rainy period have been in March and April, which is very, very late. And so it's meant that's why we've got a lot of issues with the kind of amount of vegetation that we've got. It's basically because when those rains fall, the days start to get very short, gets cold, and the plants really struggle to actually capitalize on it. And so you don't get great seeding of grasses. Also, the trees themselves tend to kind of struggle and have lost a lot of their leaves already by then because of the lack of water. So it's an interesting kind of change, and I wonder if that's just because of the drought cycle, or if this is, indicative of a greater problem that we have in the world in terms of, global warming and changes of weather patterns and those kind of things. Good. Anyway, I think we're going to probably leave our Ellies. They're a little far off, and it's a bit tricky to kind of get good visuals of them, and they're going deep into Buffelshoek. And so while we kind of carry on, see what else we can find, let's send you back across, well, actually not back across, but send you for the first time to Jamie Patterson, who is on foot this morning.
Good morning, and we are indeed on foot, and the reason that we are late is because it's cloudy. So it was a little bit dark this morning to be heading out first thing. But we are now out. I was going to say that I would head towards Tristan's Elephants, but apparently they're going into Buffelshoek. So I don't think we're going to manage to beat them all the way there. Now what we'll do instead is we will see if we can find Mr. Hosanna. This is a tricky area for poor Dave to try and navigate while filming, but I'm going to walk. Do you want to give it a go, Darby? It's a very eroded area outside of the camp. You can see where all of the ground cover has been lost, and as a result, the soil has washed away whenever it rains. And I know Tristan's been talking about the rainy season and speculating about what sort of year we're going to have. Personally, I think it's going to be quite dry, but we'll see. We shall see. I'm the worst weather predictor in the world. Ooh, Lady Starfire, it's still a little bit early to look for reptiles and amphibians, but they are starting to come out after the rain from 2 days ago. So I'll look for them with pleasure. I have to guarantee that we are always looking for them, especially on bushwalk, because it gives us something exciting to talk about during a time of the year where there's very little insect life to keep us entertained. But yes, we will search for reptiles and amphibians and arachnids and all sorts of things. You okay there, Darby? Our walk cameramen are incredibly professional. They somehow manage not to give any indication that they're about to fall down on their bottoms. You're going to be good going down here, Darby. Or shall we start talking about tambourtis just to make up some time? Costa, It's difficult to really compare between a dawn and a dusk in terms of animal activity. Both of them are extremely productive, the most productive times of the day. My favorite time of the day, though, is dawn. And I think that's less to do with the amount of activity and more to do with the fact that I just like the expectation of what you're going to find. We're going to go look for elephants, we're going to look for Hosanna, but we don't know exactly what the morning's going to give us. Where in the afternoon, we kind of always have a rough idea about where we're going, what we're going to get up to, where we're going to go to. So I think it's much of a muchness with dawn and dusk. Just depends on when you get lucky. Hyena den's always active in the morning and in the evening. The same for the big cats, mostly active in the morning and the evening. It's just cooler weather at this time of year. Okay, we're going to make our way just a little bit further away from the camp so we can get going with our morning. Brent and Tristan have beaten us to it though, and I know that Brent is still searching for signs of Bukumuri.
Unfortunately, no sign yet, but it is possible he's been moving parallel to Impala Road. It is also possible he did a very small little loop into Juma and out. So I'm going to go towards the Balanites tree at the Zoe's Junction. So he might cut across here, but so far we haven't had any tracks of any cats whatsoever. And we've been going very, very slowly in this low light to make sure we don't miss any tracks. And I think what I'll do is once I get closer to the Balanites and across Impala Plains, we'll see if we can hear anything. Now, Tristan said, could we show you the Drakensberg? We can't. It's behind clouds today, unfortunately. Morning, Patrick. Patrick would like to know, is there still a threat from dry lightning and wildfires? Yes, dry season. There was enough rain to produce quite a bit of grass. So there is a threat. Not a major one, but there is always a threat this time of the year from dry lightning and wildfires. Now, a lot of people consider fire to be a horrible, terrible, dangerous thing. However, out in the African bush, it is the opposite. The majority of the African savanna biomes are what we call fire climax biomes. So a lot of species actually need to be burnt every couple of years. Also, what a fire does is it removes the moribund and dead vegetation and puts the carbon back into the soil and regenerates. So fire can be a very, very important aspect of the savanna biomes. And you got lots of different types of fires. You've got hot, dry fires, you've got cold, wet fires, and everything in between. And a lot of that just depends on what time of the day you start burning, because these days most of the fires are natural, not from dry lightning as it would have been in the past. So areas are burnt depending on the soil type and grasses around. Certain areas you'll burn quite frequently, every 2 years. Most areas every 3 to 5 years need to be burnt. And what that does is it rejuvenates the grass. It also, as I said, rejuvenates the grass, rejuvenates the soil. Now, of course, there's always a danger of overburning. If you burn too much, it's also very bad. So it all depends on soil types and... Sorry, I thought I saw a leopard track. It was not. It depends on soil types, grass species, etc. So, for example, this type of bushveld, this mixed broad-leaved woodland that we get here in the northern Sabi Sands, probably every 3 or so years it needs a good fire. 3 to 4 years. And certain other parts every 2 years. But like the Mara, probably once every 4 or 5 years. So again, it all just depends on the area you're in. Miombo woodland, Brachystegia woodland, however, can be burnt almost every year, or every second year, for it to be at its optimum carrying capacity. And when I talk about carrying capacity, that's the amount of vegetation available to hold as many possible grazers Now, when you have a big population of grazers, buffalo, impala, nyala, even the browsers, because the fire does also do its job on the trees, what that does is it increases their numbers, which of course also increases the number of predators. And also, if an ecosystem is running at optimum, and the predators' territories will be smaller because there is enough food within their territories to sustain them. So traditionally, and when it was big, wide, open spaces where there were very, very few human habitations, and fires would be able to run through 1 million hectares plus. But of course, that is not possible now. So the controlled burns take place, and of course, everyone wants their piece of land to be in the best quality as possible, so they can have the most animals. So most fires in South Africa, and even in the Mara and Serengeti, are all man-made and controlled burns. Now, the bigger the area, the bigger the controlled burn. So, for example, on Djuma being 1,200 hectares, but what one should really do, and the Sabi Sands does this, is that they will not run Djuma as a separate entity. The whole northern Sabi Sands, this whole area, will be looked at as a management plan, probably 8,000 or 9,000 hectares, and that area will be run as one. So, for example, in Kruger, which is massive, 2.4 million hectares, it's not uncommon to burn a block of 150,000 hectares, which is twice the size of the Sabi Sands. Now, with the advent of social media, which can be quite dangerous, Kruger's taken quite a bit of flack over the last couple of years about their burning regime from tourists who don't have an absolute clue what's going on in the ecosystem, but they decide that they are now experts. It's what we call armchair experts, who will then attack the Kruger National Park. And I've been to a lot of national parks all over Africa, and I will happily stake my reputation that Kruger National Park is probably the best run in terms of management. I'm not talking about the lodges or the camps and the game drives and the roads, but in terms of an actual ecological management, they're the first to be able to admit making mistakes and to try to rectify them, and they do what's right and not what's popular. So there are a lot of government national park agencies in Africa who, under pressure from the armchair conservation, popular rather than what is right. Now, this is quite a controversial topic. For example, we can take our dear friend Scarface the lion. Fixing Scarface every time he gets injured is what's popular, it's not what's right. I do now affecting the lion dynamics. You're not those young males pushing through, whereas if Kruger found a male lion that has been injured and hurt by another male, even he can be the everyone wants to photograph male lion, they're not going to start fixing him. So that is it is a difficult line to toe, but the South African National Parks, specifically scientific services, are really incredibly knowledgeable, and they do an absolutely fantastic job in managing the national parks. And when you start fiddling with one individual lion or one individual leopard, what you're doing is you're putting the individual above the species, where there is, if you're a true conservationist, as much as I love Hasana or whatnot, the death of one male leopard in the grand scheme of things is not such a big deal, as long as the meta population, the whole big population, is being looked after properly. So it is a difficult one, and I take my hat off to a lot of the Kruger chaps, because they've taken some serious flack from some seriously aggressive and nasty armchair as I said about Kruger, they're willing to make him. Have a gremlin, so we'll continue this conversation in a little bit. In the meantime, across to Jamie and a baby amphibian.
There we go. Made good on my promise to look for reptiles and amphibians, and in this case we found some in-between amphibians. So in true SafariLive fashion, we have fixated on a theme, and we will be visiting them as often as possible, especially after the loss of poor Scoobert, which was deeply tragic. I fear that we will have to avoid getting as attached to these little froglets. What you got? Kirsty says it's too late. She's attached to them now. So you can see their little legs starting to come through and the tail starting to shorten. And that one's just grabbed. Could you see what it was, Dave? A fly of some description, a little midge, something like that. I don't want to get too close because when I did that earlier, they all swam away. And I was deeply distressed at the loss of our content. They look so silly when they're swimming, though. Their little tails are going, but at the same time, their tiny little back legs are also flapping away. The phenomenal metamorphosis of a frog. No idea which species they are. I would maybe guess a dwarf puddle frog, but I really honestly don't know. They're adorable what they are. There was a suggestion that they could become main characters, but we have gone down that road before with Mr. Henry. I seem to remember tadpoles living in our camp for an extended period of time. And there was this. Was it good? Was it a good time? We do apologize for a little bit of signal breakup. The gremlins are attacking us as well, probably because of this awkward angle that we have to bend over to show you the frogs. So I suppose we should probably abandon said froglets. Oh, no, we don't need to. It's all good. It's quite fun to watch them hunt. Well, hunt is a strong word. They're basically sitting and waiting for something to fall into the water. There's one here that Dave will not be able to show you, but I can see, that doesn't have anything resembling legs yet. It's a late bloomer. Oh, bye. Sorry, took offence to that and swam off. And basically repurposing their tail, or at least the materials of their tail, and turning it into legs. Carol, in terms of the development time, the growth of their legs and the disappearance of their tail will happen over the course of a couple of days. Depending on the species, you're looking at anywhere from about 5 to 10 days that their legs will pop out. And we learned that from watching James's tadpoles in the camp. So it takes quite a long time for them to get to this point. Darby, don't look now, but there's one at your feet. It's hopping. It's hopping, Dave. This really awkward position for Dave. But it's hopping. It's coming, Dave. Look at it go. Look at it go. You go, little guy. Well done. Made it to the water's edge. So that one's already taking its first forays into the great, vast wilderness that is the land. There's definitely a metaphor here somewhere, you know. They're in their little pond as they grow up, and then they go out into the great wide world when their legs grow. It's like every high school speech or school speech I was ever given at the end of the year, you know, when you taught about how you've grown wings and you're about to fly. That sort of thing. I hope Dave doesn't drop the camera in the water. What was I talking? I got completely distracted by the one that was making a mad dash to water. I was talking about something. That was it. It was development and growing, and it was a fascinating thing that we got to experience with James, because we really had a close-up view of them. And we could even at some point see their intestines through they've got quite a clear skin. And James had a whole collection of different tadpoles that grew at different rates and possibly at some point began to eat each other. We're not 100% sure exactly what happened, but every day we came back there were less and less tadpoles, or froglets as they were then, and there... That squirrel's going mad. I'm looking for Hosanna, actually. I mean, I've been distracted by the frogs, but it's the second squirrel I've heard calling off in the distance. I think we might need to go and investigate. We know that Hosanna likes to start his day in this area. I'm going to save poor Dave's legs, because at some point his legs are going to be completely dead, and when he stands up he's just going to collapse into the water, which would be highly entertaining, but probably not very nice. Karma. Karma. My legs are dead too. I'm going to follow up on that alarm calling squirrel. While we do, let's go see where Tristan is and where he plans to search next.
Well, we are on Cheetah Cutline, slowly just looking along, see if there's any sign of the Duke and where he kind of went. His tracks came out from where that old kill was, and he was heading further east, so I would imagine he has crossed into Torchwood, or maybe even Buffelshoek Hook. I didn't see anything going north on Buffelshoek Hook boundary, but he might have come into Torchwood and then veered kind of northwards again from there. His general direction yesterday was kind of a northeasterly direction, and then obviously he came south. As we know, he had him in the afternoon, so I'm a bit kind of surprised at his sort of general movement. I thought maybe he would kind of carry on into Buffelshoek Hook, but obviously Buffelshoek Hook Dam is a kind of an attraction in that it's got water, and so maybe that's why he headed that way and then onwards into Torchwood. We know he likes Torchwood, especially Torchwood Dam area. He heads there quite regularly, so I wouldn't be surprised that he does head in that direction. But anyway, we're going to, like I say, just bumble along Cheetah Cutline. We're going to see what we get. We're not going to go into Torchwood just yet, because I just want to check what's going in and out. So we'll do the sort of boundary all the way down, see if those lions potentially went onto the back of those buffalo, and then, you know, from there we'll kind of take it as it comes. But that's the plan for now. It's really starting to get quite cold though. It's kind of, the temperature's dropping by the minute. There's this cold wind that's starting to blow now, and this is a place that I wanted to check for tracks, because often this is an area where our cats will go in and out of Djuma. Hang on a second. Fern, sometimes it depends on how much rain we get and kind of whether or not fronts are blowing in. But we can get high heat and humidity after big storms. So if we get a thunderstorm where we get sort of 20, 30, 40 millimeters, then yes, it can get quite humid after that. And then sometimes the temperatures will go up to, you know, 40 degrees Celsius, 100 Fahrenheit, with sort of 80-90% humidity, and then it gets a little uncomfortable. But for the most part, what we get is we'll get rain, it'll be a cool period, and then it starts to get hot, humid for a while, and that builds to the next storm, and then so it just rolls on through the summer periods. And that's why it's been so different lately, is that we've had kind of hot days with not a cloud in the sky and very low humidity, so it's this kind of hot, dry heat, which is a little bit different to what should normally happen around this particular area. Over the sort of spring and summer, that should be a general kind of build up in temperature that will then get you to kind of nice warm sort of hot weather with humidity and rain, but it just hasn't been happening over the last few years. I'm intrigued though, I haven't seen Tingana's track crossing eastwards, and I would have thought on that road or the one before I would have seen it. I wonder if maybe Hukamuri didn't make a noise and Tingana just turned and went back that way and went off to just defend his area. It'll be interesting to see, but we'll keep looking. While we do that though, let's send you back across to Brent, who's still on the discussion about fires.
Well, welcome back, and we're still looking for Hukamuri. So we've actually made our way to our western boundary now, and I'm just going to check all the way back up to where we started this morning to make sure he didn't just do a little loop-de-loop and disappear back into the western sections. Yes, but I think we're at, that Kruger is happy to try fix mistakes. So during the 50s and 60s, Kruger management thought it would be really nice to have water holes everywhere. So they built lots of big dams on the rivers, and they put pumped water holes in the really dry northern areas of the park, in the Mopani Veld. And they thought they were doing all the animals a favor. Inadvertently, it caused a lot of problems for certain species of animal. In particular, 3 species of animal, and they were pushed to almost local extinction in the park. So those 3 species of animal were sable, roan, and brown hyena, all 3 of which are not water dependent. So they can survive happily without permanent water. Sable less so. Sable will cover big distances, but they also prefer long species of grass, and they prefer one species of Eragrostis in South Africa. So what happened is, by putting all these water holes into areas where there traditionally weren't a lot of water holes, first things first, your bulk grazers, buffalo, rhino, zebra in particular, moved into that area. Now, traditionally, during the rainy season, when there's a lot of water around, a lot of grass around, the buffalo and the rhino and the zebra and the wildebeest and the other bigger herds. Sorry, I can't hear what Taxon has seen. I think he's found tracks. I'll find out in a second. But so they would move into those areas during the summer months, when there was a lot of grass to go around and lots of water all over the place. But then, as soon as it started getting into the dry season, elephants, another one of the bulk grazers, what would happen is those animals would then, as soon as it started getting dry, would move back down to the more permanent water points along the rivers, and natural seeps that were constantly full, or not full, but constantly had water. But without Dyker running across the road, but without them moving, what happened is those big bulk grazers outcompeted your roan and sable, and basically pushed them to the point where they nearly became extinct in the park. Now, the same goes for brown hyena. So the brown hyenas prefer the more arid area, and they are far less aggressive than spotted hyenas. And what would happen now is the spotties are far more water dependent. They can survive in very arid areas, but they never get to the numbers that they do in a moist area. So what happened was that now, because there was permanent water, spotted hyenas started setting up clans and building bigger clans in these more arid areas, because firstly there was more food, because the buffalo and the zebras and the wildebeest and whatnot were not leaving these areas. So there was a permanent food source, there was a permanent water source, and pretty much the spotted hyenas outcompeted the brown hyenas. So by trying to do the animals a favor, inadvertently in the 50s and 60s, Kruger management actually caused a major problem for three quite iconic species as well. So in the last 10 years, and as I said, in the 50s and 60s, not many people even knew that this was bad or whatnot. And what's happened then is they've now started breaking down those water holes. 1 second. Go ahead, Trist. Negative. Last tracks were near Torchwood Water, south of Torchwood Dam. Nothing. Sorry, guys. Tristan's on the lion tracks. He was just checking where I went yesterday afternoon when I went to go try to track those lions, where the last tracks were, but it looks like he's got much more fresh tracks than I had yesterday. But anyway, where was I? Oh yes, so they've started breaking down those dams and stopped pumping those water holes and windmills, and slowly but surely they're hoping to rectify the natural status quo that used to be in those areas. Now, I'd say it's a bit of a controversial one. It's a bit naughty, but let's take the Sabi Sands for an example, because we are here. The impala population of the Sabi Sands is probably about 4 times what it should be. Now, of course, that's great because our leopard population is also bigger than it probably would have been. Now, the reason that our impala population is so big here is twofold. There are a lot of pumped water holes, and there are also a lot of man-made clearings, which the impala prefer, and also makes it a bit more difficult to for the predators to catch them on those open man-made clearings that are often mowed as well. So, to a degree, the Sabi Sands is managed for leopards. So, impala being a leopard's favorite food. If you have lots of impala, your leopard territories get smaller, so you can have more leopards. So it's an interesting one. My dad's always called the Sabi Sands an impala farm. They just breed impala. So it is quite an interesting one. Now, also, not so much in the Sabi Sands, but in other areas, specifically outside of areas that are open to Kruger that don't have a lot of elephants and whatnot, one of the biggest problems is your seep lines, your natural open areas and your natural flow of water have become corrupted, and basically by the fact that there haven't been enough elephants, buffalo and the big species, and they would have kept the small little Dicrostachys and small terminalias and stuff down. So what's happened now is that because we haven't had those keystone species in an area, keeping the natural seep lines where the water flows from the hill under the ground down into the little river systems, what's happened in areas where 50 years ago there was permanent water in a lot of those rivers, the trees have now completely clogged up the natural seep lines, and that has stopped the natural flow of water down into the river basins. And what that does is it also thickens the area, so the area becomes much thicker than it traditionally would have been, and lots more trees, lots more bushes, particularly Terminalia, Grivia and Dicrostachys, so silver cluster leaf, raisin bushes and sickle bush, and they basically stop the natural flow of water and form completely covered areas, so your grass stops growing. So what happens is your grazing species, your wildebeest, zebra, rhino, whatnot, their populations take a dip because there's not enough food around for them. So it's quite interesting. My dad does quite a bit of it where he is now because it's an old cattle farm, and they've busy reintroduced lions, cheetah, elephants are coming in January, and so to try get those systems back to what they should be, you need to remove a lot of indigenous plants, but because there aren't the controlling agents in this case specifically elephant mostly, to keep those bushes from taking over the seep lines, you've got to do it manually. So you've got to bush clear. Oh, I thought Senzo saw something. He just dropped his earphones. So it's a very interesting thing, and it's a very fine process balancing. So you go further north in Africa, and it becomes a little bit more interesting. So if you take northern Botswana, that whole super structure, so north of the main buffalo fence and the Mekgadikgadi, 90% of that is under wildlife. So now what? Do I pump water? Do I not? Well, you don't, because there people haven't fiddled and, I was going to say a naughty word, but they haven't messed up the system. And there's no need for the type of management that is needed in South Africa, where human beings have been gardeners in Eden. We've taken Eden and we've tried to make it better, and all we've done is absolutely stuff it up in a lot of cases. So it's a very interesting conversation. Now, I think I could go on for hours about this. In particular, now there's a lot of talk about the reopening of hunting in Botswana. In particular, hunting of elephants. Now, I can already hear some of the hairs on the back of your neck standing up and going, "What?" Now, it's a very interesting conundrum, that. So they closed the hunting a couple of years ago. Now, you've got the Okavango Delta, you've got Savuti, and you've got the Chobe Kwando system. Unbelievably productive game areas. They're beautiful to go on game drive in, but that's probably less than a third of that whole massive 10 million hectare system that is up on the top. A lot of the area is scrub mapani. It's full of tsetse flies, or not so much tsetse flies anymore, but mapani flies. All the trees are about this high. It's thick sand. It's hot. There's no rivers. There's a couple of natural seeps, but it's really good elephant country. Now, some of those concessions, those hunting concessions, they are over 1 million hectares. So half the size of Kruger is one concession. Now, in that concession, at any one time of the year, you can probably have more than the whole population of elephants in South Africa. 20,000 elephants in one of those big concessions during the summer months. And what happened is they closed the hunting. There are a lot of small, very rural communities that are inside those concessions and on the edge of those concessions, whose whole livelihood was almost from the hunting industry. So what have those communities done now that they've closed hunting? So the hunters, and they only hunted elephant in Botswana for the last couple of years. So the hunters used to do anti-poaching, used to make sure that everything was good in their concession, because obviously they don't want a bad concession if they're bringing people out from wherever, America, Germany. So what happened is the hunters left. Almost all of those people in those small rural villages lost their main source of income and source of food, because all the meat was given to the local communities that were around those concessions. And an area where there were 20,000 elephant, they used to, in one concession or one area, they'd shoot 4 elephant a year, 4 elephant bulls. So now this is where we talk about the benefit of the individual versus the benefit of the meta population. 4 elephant bulls a year has absolutely zero effect on the greater population. But now the removal of that resource, because the elephants are a resource to the local people and to obviously to the hunting companies, you remove that resource, the poaching is gone absolutely rampant in those hunting concessions, because the people don't have any access to work. It's very, very rural. I mean, you guys can't understand how rural that part of Africa is in that dry country. So they've got no work, they've got no free elephant meat. So what are you going to do? They started poaching the buffalo, started poaching ellies again, started poaching the zebra and wildebeest that migrate through that area, and then started pushing cows and goats into those hunting concessions. Then they started shooting the lions because the lions were eating their cows. So there's no simple answer, and this is where I say being an armchair conservationist and signing all the petitions and whatnot can be very dangerous, because you can actually cause a really negative effect on people trying to do their jobs in the right way. And sometimes, as I said, doing what is right is not what is popular. And that's the one major danger with social media and conservation. So finding a baby elephant whose mother has died of natural causes because she's ill or old, oh no, I must now go save this elephant. It's what's popular, it's not what's right. So it's a very difficult conversation, and you go to different parts of Africa and you can see the different management structures and styles. But let's just put it this way. So since 1960, South Africa, and there's a particular reason for this. In South Africa, I can own an elephant. I can go buy an elephant. It is now my elephant. And now if I put that elephant on my farm, it's my elephant. And I've paid a lot of money for that elephant. I'm going to do whatever I can to protect that elephant. Now, most other countries in Africa, all animals are owned by the state. And talking about that hunting thing in Botswana, Kenya is actually a really good case study of this. So basically in 1966, I think, hunting was banned in Kenya. Now, Kenya had the similar system to what they have in Botswana, all those hunting concessions around your prime game viewing areas. Kenya has lost 65% of its wildlife since 1966. South Africa, where you can privately own an animal, and if it's your animal and if someone wants to shoot it, they're going to pay you to shoot it. It's your animal, you own it. You can say, okay, shoot it. It's my animal. Where South Africa has actually quadrupled its wildlife since the 60s, when you could own an animal. That was when the law changed. So Kenya's lost 65% with no hunting. Hunting is a major business in South Africa and Southern Africa. South Africa has quadrupled its wildlife. Botswana also, a lot of those hunting areas are feeder areas. So the young male lions that come into the good areas and the elephants that come in and out of the good game viewing areas spend time in these hunting areas where it's not that nice bush. So I don't want to say I have no interest in going hunting, but you've got to stop, sit back, and stop. We as human beings, and specifically because we spend so much time with individual animals and that, we get so focused on the micro that we forget to look at the macro. So yes, shooting an elephant is a horrible thing, but if shooting that elephant ensures the survival of not only the other elephants in that area, but the lions, the buffalo, the giraffe, everything else, is it a sacrifice that you should be willing to make? My personal opinion, probably yes. The greater good, the meta population, there's going to be elephants again for the next 100 years for the sacrifice of a few elephants. So it's a very difficult discussion, and I know I mean, everyone, even amongst us presenters here, have our different opinions on it. And I've been lucky enough to grow up on the cusp. So I've got friends who are hunters, I've got friends who are anti-hunting, I've got friends who think we should pick up every baby animal and care for them. I've got friends who think the opposite. So it's a very interesting discussion. But at the end of the day, this is my personal opinion. If hunting benefits the meta population, the greater good, yes, I think it's a good thing. Specifically because it's keeping more area under conservation, more area under wildlife, and basically it just increases the health of the greater area. But that's my personal opinion. You guys are more than welcome to make up your own. So, no sign of hukumuri just yet. Well, seems like quite a few of you agree with me and you've enjoyed it. Well, thank you. I've actually enjoyed chatting about it. It's one of the conversations we'll have around a campfire amongst ourselves quite often. So it's quite nice to share something a bit different, a little bit more serious. But I'm going to now focus on trying to find a leopard, and let's send you across to Jamie, who's just lounging about.
Well, I mean, I'm not lounging about so much as just waiting for Brent to finish what he was talking about, because Kirsty wanted us to show you, well, to catch you up on what we've been up to, but Brent's topics of conversation were not ones that can be addressed superficially. So we had to sit and wait it out. And I thought, well, since it is such a lovely morning and since we're all getting up at sort of 3:45 anyway in the morning, I might as well have a little rest on this old log. Plus, and actually I should be careful of where I'm putting my feet now. It's that time of year. It is, of course, now going into summer and the rainy season, which means we get all sorts of exciting things coming through. But wanted to show you before we go off and look for Hasana. And by the way, we didn't have any luck with that alarm calling squirrel, unfortunately. I'm going to change the topic completely from what Brenty was talking about, because I have a very cool story to tell you. And it's got absolutely nothing to do with what I'm showing you here. That is just where a borer beetle has made its way into this old marula trunk. And you can see how the bits of wood from inside towards the... What on earth do you call the center of a tree? The pale part in the middle, the core part of the trunk. I'm having a moment. This pale wood has come from deep inside this tree, and what the borer beetles have done is they've moved in and they've laid their eggs somewhere deep down into the wood here, so that when their eggs hatch, the larvae actually have a ready-made source of food. Now, what I wanted to tell you about was completely off topic, and I just wanted to show you that and then tell you the story, because I think the story is interesting. Forgive me if you know it. So I did this experiment. I've been reading a lot. I found a really nice insect book with all sorts of fascinating facts about different insects. And I was reading about this experiment with house crickets, which made me think about people and also made me think about hyenas and leopards and just dominance in general. So basically, if they put a group of house crickets, 10 house crickets, into a container, and this could actually be quite a famous experiment, so forgive me if you know this, but if you put 10 house crickets into a container, 10 males, and it's too small for them to have individual territories. What they'll do is they'll establish a hierarchy. It'll take them a few days, they'll fight, and the winner will then give off a sort of a song, a very humiliating song. It's basically to humiliate the loser, which is interesting. So, now you take cricket, let's say 5th and 6th in the hierarchy, and you take them out and you put them in their own little container. Then, number 5 starts to, because he's on his own, all of a sudden he's the most dominant cricket, he starts to bully number 6, and number 6 can't fight back and becomes more and more humiliated. Then you put them back into the group of 10, or you complete the group of 10 once again, so you put them back with the other 8. Number 5 immediately shoots to the top of the pecking order, and number 6 immediately goes down to the bottom of the pecking order, because it's psychological. The one's got a superiority complex, the one's got an inferiority complex, and if that doesn't describe human nature, I don't know what does. House crickets. Fascinating. I think it works the same way with hyenas. I think it works the same way with leopards or lions. Dominance is a psychological thing. Obviously, there is a physical aspect. Hosana's too small to fight with Tingana or Hukumuri for now. But he's got personality. We'll give him that. And that bodes well for him, because it means he might just have slightly more dominance when it really does come time. When push comes to shove, quite literally. We're going to go look for Hosana, because he was hungry. Tina, I confess, I never thought of crickets having a hierarchy either. Look, it's quite an artificial situation, because they'd actually have territories, but it makes sense. Also goes to show that the natural instinct of most things is to have a pecking order or a hierarchy. And we're making our way through some of the river systems around this is where we had the Nkahumas actually, not so long ago. They were down here lying in this riverbed. So we're checking for Hosana. Last night he came slinking past at dinner time, and he was hungry. I'm a bit concerned he's eaten the bushbuck that I know quite well. I'm really hoping he hasn't. But we're going to go see. I mean, obviously I don't begrudge Hosana a meal. I quite like that bushbuck. She's been there since I started here. She's got a little hole in her ear. And she's old. An old girl. And she doesn't move very far. I'm quite attached to her. Well, at least we're all following along a common theme this morning. Brent's searching and preaching. I'm searching and, well, Tristan's searching too.
We are all searching, but none of us seem to have had much luck just yet. The track for this Nkuhuma Pride look like they're coming to Chitwa, so we just have a little look around now quickly just to see if they might be at the dam or hanging around this area. I don't think that we're going to have too much luck with them, but let's see, let's give it a shot and get. The rest of the Pride is very far away. The rest of the Pride is in the far west, close to Elephant Plains, or just south of Plains, so the chance of them going that way is probably quite real, given that they're still on that giraffe kill. So maybe that's where it's headed off to, and come to Chitwa, and then they just do that kind of straight westerly walk that the Nkuhumas do. So we'll just have to scratch and see. I mean, any tracks coming towards the dam itself, come across the open area and going somewhere here, but I would imagine if they were, the Chitwa would have a while ago. Anyway, we'll kind of have a look. But before we do that, we're going to just get to the dam here, and we're going to switch off and have a little look around. You never know what you're going to get at Chitwa Dam, and so sometimes it's good just to come and stop here and have a little look around and see what is actually going on. Let's have a look. Is there anything of interest? I'm sure there's some hippos. There'll definitely be a million hippos here. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that could potentially be around. Let's seems quite quiet actually. I suppose the weather conditions are not great to be right out in the open and kind of being blown about by the wind. Hippos are all clustered together and are very happy with life at this stage. They are, I suppose, fairly kind of warm in the way that the water will probably still be holding a lot more temperature than what it would be outside. And so inside there, given that they've also got a huge amount of insulation, they will be probably very comfortable and quite happy with their morning so far. It's not too much bright sun, so for them it will be quite nice. So Minamu, I would imagine that they do sense drought, and that they well, maybe not sense drought as in that there is going to be a phenomenon called drought. There's going to, I'm pretty sure that they sense that the water is drying up and that things are going to become harder and food is, harder to find. They definitely do sense rain, which is quite interesting. So in times of floods, hippos, funny enough, are one of the big indicators that floods are about to come. And I was always a bit skeptical about this, but then we had a flood at Lion Sands in 2013. The Sabi River flooded, and 2012 this was seen as well. But basically what happened was it must have been about 3-4 days before that rain arrived and that flooding started, found all the hippos in the river just walking out. So they all came out and they all walked northwards or southwards, depending which side they were on, and they kind of moved away from the river quite substantially and then sort of headed more towards bigger kind of, well, not bigger, but more towards higher ground where there were small pans that they eventually decided they would kind of go into and go and settle in. And so it was interesting to kind of see this kind of mass movement out of the river. Then 3 days later, the river flooded through, and as soon as the river levels dropped, they went back again. So they're definitely perceptive of rain and when it's coming and changes in water levels. But whether or not they can predict a drought, well, that's probably remains to be seen. I mean, you'd imagine that they would notice that water is drying and then start to move accordingly, but I don't think they can actually predict it. Now, while we're sitting with our hippos, I have a little friend with me, or not. I'm actually not going to call it a friend because it's not a friend at all. But last night, in the middle of the night, it's around 2 o'clock this morning, in fact just a little bit before 2, there was a sudden leap from next to me and a movement, and poor Ali unfortunately had got a nasty little sting, and we kind of turned on the lights and we managed to find this little culprit that stung her. Now it is alive still, so I've just got it in a glass because I wanted to show all of you this morning, and it's a horrible little Europlectes olivaceus. So it's not a very pleasant scorpion to get hit by. Olivaceous refers to that kind of olive coloration with those banded legs. These guys, you do get them from time to time, and they are not very pleasant things to deal with at all. It is seriously sore when one of these hits you. It is not a pleasant thing at all, and we're not sure how it got into the house, but they are fairly common in this area. You do get them kind of moving about. Now it is still very much alive. I want to actually try and see, Seb, let's see if we can get a piece of bark or something, because the glass doesn't really look that good. So I'm just going to jump out. Yes, ouch is true, and wow, I'm not sure wow is a good thing. I'm going to try and find a branch or something that I can put it on. So I'm going to disappear quickly from behind the vehicle. Just give me 2 seconds as I just quickly grab a nice long branch, because I don't want a short one, because if this thing probably is quite angry about being in a glass for the last hour and a half or 2 hours, and probably doesn't really want to be kind of messed around with too much. So I'm going to try to see if I can actually get it onto this little stick. Oh, no, there it's gone off onto the car. Come on, onto the stick. This is Scorpion Wrangling 101. There we go. Alright, now you are going to behave yourself, are you not? So you can see it's trying to look for a dark kind of place in which it can hide and kind of move around, and it's trying to see if there's somewhere where it can get into to be able to kind of not be seen and not actually get itself injured. Now even though it stung Ali and it caused a little bit of pain and probably not very comfortable, it's not this little thing's fault. It's ultimately what's happened is probably during the course of the night, Ali's obviously rolled onto it, and that's just its defense that it's taken upon itself to try and actually kind of defend itself. Now, sorry, I've got to keep moving my hands because I don't want to get hit by it as well. So there it is again. I'm just going to try and see if I can turn it a little bit. No, stay there. You can see it's trying to get out of the sunlight as much as possible because it knows that darker places generally are safer. Now, you'll notice with this guy is that if you look at the shape of this scorpion, its pincers, sorry Seb, I'm going to turn it again. So I've got the long side. Its pincers are very, very small in comparison to its body, so very, very tiny. And so those pincers are not actually being used really to go after anything. They're more kind of a sort of an appendage that's just going to hold things, whereas their tail, if you look at it, is monstrous in comparison to the rest of the body. So thick tail, and when you're dealing with scorpions, that's always what you're going to look for. You're going to try and kind of see whether or not they have big thick tails. Thick tails will indicate venomous, whereas a thin tail will indicate that they more hunt using pincers. So thick pincers, thin tail, not too bad. Small pincers, massive tail, start to worry and start to be very aware of what you're doing around them. Now, while this guy will not kill you, it does have probably one of the more serious venoms out here. It, like I say, is excruciatingly painful to get hit by one of these. It's not very pleasant at all. It won't kill you, but it certainly is not going to be a nice experience at all. But very, very cool kind of scorpion to see. They generally find them a lot in sort of rocky areas. They like to go in between rocks. Also in any sort of fallen over trees, you'll also find these guys kind of moving around, and they are a fairly common species within the Sabi Sand region. You get quite a lot of them out here. You just got to be a bit careful about kind of the way things go. The other problem with these guys is they absolutely love folded up laundry. That's where they like to spend a lot of their time. So you've always got to be a bit careful when you kind of take out clothes and things out here, and it's always a good reminder that these guys are around. But they are incredible creatures. I absolutely love spending or kind of seeing scorpions. I know that they send shivers down most spine, and it's not something that you really want to get hit by. No, don't go onto the car. You're not allowed on the car. You can stay on the stick, but you can't go onto the car itself, because otherwise it's going to bite me on my leg while we're driving. Sorry, Seb, I know I'm making this very difficult for you, but hopefully the scorpion is not going to come back this way. It is, isn't it? I've just got to make sure I'm watching where it's going. You see, it's trying to find a little hole to get into. So what we're going to do is we don't want to stress this thing out anymore. I mean, obviously it did kind of envenomate Ali, but it's not its fault, and so we're going to try and release it into a nice spot somewhere. The problem is out here there really isn't much that I can put it on that it's going to be okay. So what I need to try and find is a little rocky area or something where we can just place it so that it can find a little crevice and get in there and stay out the way, because I'll feel very bad if I bring it out here and then it gets taken by something like a hornbill or a mongoose or something like that. So we're going to try and find a little spot for it. So hold on, little scorpion, we're going to just get you into a better spot. Of course, now I can't find my thing to connect myself so that I can actually hear Kirsty, as well as try and drive and not get hit by this scorpion. So come on, we're going to put you in a better spot so that you can be safe. I think these little rocks here by the dam wall. Lisa, I'm not sure kind of how bad Ali's arm is, to be honest with you. I mean, it was in the middle of the night, and I obviously, you know, we just kind of tried to put some stuff that we had in the house on it, just so that it wouldn't swell up too much. But you should get kind of a little bit of swelling. That should generally be what you get from one of these guys, and then you'll get probably she'll be a little bit kind of sensitive in that area, so if you touch it, it'll probably hurt a little bit. But for the most part, it just looked like, when it first happened, just looked almost like a little mosquito bite to start off with. Right, now come on, little scorpion, we're going to put you here in these rocky little section here. I mean, it's not rocks, but it's brickwork, which there should be little cracks that the scorpion can find itself in. Come on, in you go. There we go. You can see already it wants to head in that direction. Come on. Don't be shy now. Now you've been all active and now you want to sit here. You can see the tail is kind of cocked up in case it needs to strike. No, come on now. Oh, of course now the scorpion doesn't want to go, so we're going to try and just kind of coax it to get off. Come on. Off you go. In there. Come on. No, man, go off. No, of course. There we go. There we go, into the little hole it went, and now that scorpion will be much safer and will be able to kind of they'll come out and move around a lot more. It's much safer for them to move around at night. They don't have to deal with as many birds and as many predators like mongoose and those kind of things. So it will sit in that little kind of crevice now and take it very easy, and then it will start to move around. But that was very cool. Nice to be able to show you guys, because we don't get to see scorpions all that often. Right, in the meantime, we're going to go back and see if we can find these lion tracks and see where they went. Let's send you back to Jamie Patterson and see what she's been up to.
Definitely more dangerous than a scorpion. Don't move, Dave. We're in a really, really precarious position, folks. This is one of the most dangerous places to be. Just meters from a scrub hare, and not only that, stealing inspiration from James Hendry. I really feel as though we're taking some serious risks this morning. It's aware of our presence. Kirsty's absolutely right. Not only are we facing down a scrub hare, but it has a tear in its ear, which means not only are we facing down a dangerous animal, but in fact we are facing down a thug scrub hare who has survived many a battle. Grew up on the wrong side of the burrow, says Kirst. She's obviously forgotten that hares don't live in burrows, but that's okay, we'll forgive her. We'll forgive her the pun. Kirst is now explaining that it was a joke, Darby. So there's us. Carol, I was going to suggest to Kirst that we do an action broadcast. There's so many things you don't experience. No, I don't think we're ready for it. The situation could go so perilously wrong. And the scrub hare's gone. That was fun. I think we have survived unscathed. Poor Dave has now got to stand up once again. We had our escape route all planned out. Actually, just really nice to, I mean, all absurdities aside, it's really nice to see a scrub hare out during the day and on foot, and we were really close, and he was really relaxed with us. And I might just try and walk around a little bit. This is not to say that I'm not tremendously sympathetic towards poor Ali's plight, because I haven't said a word about it because I was distracted by my scrub hare. But I am. Scorpion stings are not pleasant, particularly olivaceous ones. Poor thing. Hello. Karen, while we sneak up on our scrub hare so that we can do yet another action broadcast on foot with it. Far more exciting than elephants. I don't know what everybody's been fussing about. Carol, the way that you treat a scorpion sting is you put ice on it. And you can take some painkillers, but they don't really help. Honestly, the best thing for it is ice. That's the only thing that dulls the pain a little bit. Obviously, for kids and for people who have slightly weakened physical conditions, if they get stung by a parabuthus, a thick-tailed scorpion that's very, very venomous, it might not be a bad idea to get some medical attention. But otherwise, ice, and if you're feeling really, really brave, you plunge it into really hot water. I'm not saying do this. Please note this comes with a disclaimer. It is incredibly painful, but it speeds up the breakdown of the venom. But that's if you're feeling really brave. Otherwise, you just put ice on it and wait for it to pass. I can't believe I relaxed the scrub. Our scrub hair bite, on the other hand, well, there's not much to be done. I mean, once the scrub hair decides to come at you, that's it. That's it. It's game over. Which is why Dave and myself are taking such a risk. Dave, if he comes running at us, or she, I don't actually know. If he comes, you go to that termite mound, and I'll throw myself in front of you, and we'll be able to buy you some time just in case it does. No, Kirst, one of us does have to be a hero. And it can't be Dave, because although we could maybe fend it off using Dave's bushwalk antenna, like a lance, just form a barrier. I think this has become more and more absurd, and I dread to know James's, yes, a very hairy situation. Scrub hairy. It's a very scrub hairy situation. Okay, Kirst, you win with that one. You win. That beat the burrow joke hands down. Now, of course, this bears much resemblance from James's Franklin sighting with Brian many, many months ago. Possibly years ago now. I, of course, shamelessly stole the idea. He's so happy. He's happily rooting away at the sort of the stems of the grass. I can't believe how chilled out the scrub hair is. It looks so soft. So soft and cuddly. Is, of course, a vicious terror. No, it's not. A relatively or completely innocuous animal that falls victim to Hosanna and the other leopards around here, as well as to servals, eagles, eagle owls, wild dogs often. In fact, I think wild dogs eat way more in the way of scrub hairs than we realize. I think in those times that we follow them and we lose them in the block, I think they're busy devouring some poor hapless scrub hare. They have also been responsible for a fair number of my frights out here. There's nothing like walking past a thick clump of bushes that suddenly explodes out. Something just comes sprinting past your feet. It's terrifying. How close do you think you'd let us get, Dave? Cull 6 very soon will be when the scrub hares have their babies. I've done it again. I keep leaning on this poor knee. Doesn't appreciate it. I creep closer. Cull 6, I've actually got to just act normal and not act like I'm creeping up on it, because that's going to just scare it. Scrub hares will have their babies all year round, but generally there's a peak season. No, don't. It's okay. It's okay. Generally there's a peak season during the rainy season. Okay, I think we pushed that a little far. Sorry, little buddy. We do actually have to come past you, though. Ideally, if you wouldn't mind. Oh, it's perfectly chilled. I mean, it's moving away from us, but not running, not sprinting. And it stopped for a pee. And if we have a look around, I'm almost certain that within a few seconds... Here we go. I'll find some scrub hair done. That was literally a few seconds. Here you go. Pale pellets. Very, very pale in colour. Because, of course, they practice a process known as coprophagy. So they eat their food once, and then it goes through their digestive system, and then as it comes out the other end, they eat it again. Something for which we are all grateful human beings don't have to do, but for scrub hares it works out pretty well. Okay, our dangerous scrub hare has wandered off. I think we can carry on looking for Hosanna now. That was fun. I enjoyed that. Closest encounter with a scrub hare in a very, very long time. It's okay, buddy. We're just going to come wandering past. Have you seen a leopard by any chance? I don't know. And if the scrub hare knows, it's not telling. What happens out here in this neighborhood stays in this neighborhood. Brent is also searching for leopards. It's a common theme this morning.
Yes, I just got a report on Hukumuri. He did exactly what we hoped he hadn't, and he just basically went back to the west. So, having a quick look around camp and Mvubu Road, and I also popped into the hyena den. Unfortunately, the hyena den was not active. So we're going to carry on searching. So I've done the west and come down the middle, and I think I'm going to keep going down the middle, check the Mawati, and see if we have any luck in that area. I know Taxon's already checked Treehouse Dam, and it sounds like the lions went to Chitwa. I know Trist's still on their trail. Okay, bouncy bounce. I wonder where our camp leopard is. I think he's probably snoozing somewhere close by. Or maybe he's gone off on an adventure. Now we're going to work our way all the way down the Moati to Twin Dams, and then work our way back up slightly more to the west. See if he's maybe in that area there. Hello, Bill would like to know, what is the plan if a fire breaks out on Djuma? Well, it completely depends where the fire breaks out and the wind direction. So around the lodge and camp and stuff like that, there's quite a lot of short grass, quarantine and that, so it's quite easy to control a fire. If a fire had to break out somewhere else, depends again on the winds and how fast it's moving. But the best way to control fire is to fight fire with fire. So what you would do is you would go away from where the fire is. Say if the fire was coming from the north towards this road and the wind was pushing it this way, what we'd do is we'd start a fire along here and burn back. So when the two fires meet, they die. So the best way to control fire is to backburn. And so you burn a fire into a fire, and otherwise you try beat a fire, it's going to beat you. Oh, hello noisies. Off, so noisy this morning. Arrow-marked babblers. Oh, they seem to have finished their little squabble. Definitely one of the more distinctive sounds out here. An excellent question from Ramona. Ramona would like to know, are there seeds that need fire to generate? Yes, actually, Ramona. Especially your certain wildflower species, only normally germinate after fire. There's a couple of them. One of the more impressive ones that normally germinates after fire is your fireball lily. It's a big round red lily that germinates after fire. But yes, there are quite a few different wildflowers that will only germinate after fire. So you'll only see them every couple of years or every year that there's a burn. Okay. Where, oh where is the little chief? Oh, where's Tundi for that matter? We haven't seen tracks for her in days. Okay, I'm going to head down towards the Moati River, see if we have some luck in that area. While I do that, let's go see what little intricacies of the African bush Jamie is looking at now.
I don't think I've ever put baby millipedes on camera, and I actually confess I don't think I've ever seen a baby millipede full stop. How cool is this? Rixon, I suspect, knew that they were here. He moved a piece of old building wood, also known as gum pole, out of the way, and he unearthed, not earthworms, but tiny little baby millipedes. They're so sweet. Looky here. We've seen adult millipedes making little baby millipedes, but I've never seen baby millipedes like this, of this size. Give you a sense of perspective. That's my finger. How's that, Darby? Bit further in? Is that good? Yeah, that's my finger, and that's the baby millipede. Just to give you a sense of scale. So they're tiny, tiny compared to the adults. They're really very, very sweet. And that's about all I can tell you about baby millipedes. I assume that their parents will lay their eggs somewhere where the little millipedes will have a source of food. So under a log, somewhere where they are protected. Of course, the biggest issue for insects, any insects, well, millipedes not counting as insects, but any sort of arthropods, is to find a place where their babies, which are very, very small and very vulnerable, can be protected. And they've got so many different ways of doing that. Dung beetles, put them in a dung ball, provide them with a source of food from the moment they are, from the moment that they hatch out of their eggs. Some will glue the eggs down onto leaves to make sure that they don't get stolen by ants. And to protect them, of course, some have to have hard shell casings so that they don't desiccate or dry out. There's actually loads here. Tavi, hold on one sec. There's one here that's just moving around underneath. Tim, you want to know if they shed their exoskeleton as they grow? They do indeed. Well, at least as far as I know. I might be wrong about that. Look how tiny this one is. Hello. You're so sweet. Yeah, I'm just going to put you back with the others. There you go, so you don't go wandering off, because I'm going to put the log back over them. Snazzy, these are not venomous. So there's a big difference between yes, of course they will molt. Sorry. I'm distracted by trying to keep track of them. They will molt, absolutely, so that they can grow. Snazzy, they are not venomous. There's centipedes and there are millipedes. Millipedes eat rotten plant material and are completely harmless. We know them as shongololos, and most of us grew up picking them up and putting them on our hands and feeling them sort of walk over our skin with this sort of wave-like motion of their legs. Then there's centipedes. Now centipedes, I think the animal kingdom, there's place for everything in the animal kingdom. I'm not sure about centipedes. I love everything. I'm not scared of anything in the animal kingdom except centipedes. I do not like centipedes, and centipedes are venomous. And their bite is reported to be phenomenally painful. You know, I'm terrible about centipedes. I really have to learn... Where'd they all go? Oh, there's one. I really have to learn to appreciate them because they are, in their own right, special animals. But all of us have our little bugbears, and centipedes are mine. I've never been bitten by one. I've never experienced the venom. I've never experienced the pain. And they are, of course, predators. So they go running around. And what you'll find is that with certain species like scorpions or solifuges, they will hunt centipedes. And, interestingly, very rare in a mammal kingdom, the situation will be reversed and the centipede will actually hunt them too. So it's an interesting little tit-for-tat, that kind of relationship. Remember, it's the name Shongololo, as far as I know, is actually one of the local names for a millipede, not in this area. I'm not 100% sure exactly where it originated, but it'll be a local name. I'll double check and I'll look it up for you, and I'll let you know. Is there an ant on this one? Oh no! I hope it's only one ant and not an entire... Hey, look at that. That is so cool. Leave it alone. Leave the baby millipede alone. I have this feeling that Shongololo might be Zulu, but I might be wrong. Okay, Brent has broken the theme for this morning. We were all meant to be searching. Brent has actually managed to find.
Oh, we've got the old man, Tingana. I think he did a loop-de-loop on Tristan. He didn't head to Torchwood. He actually came back and is now heading to the west. Looking very hungry as well. Oh, there we go. This is the first time I've seen Tingana since I've been back. Looking very well compared to the last time I saw him, when he was not so well and was spending a lot of time behind the Chitwa Dam wall. And he's been a busy boy with the ladies over the last little while. And I've just heard that a really big pack of wild dogs has been found to the north, but unfortunately they're heading back towards Kruger. And oh dear. But you never know with dogs, they might turn around like Tingana did and come this way. So over 10-15 dogs from what I can hear on the radio. But I will be happy with my cat. I know the dogs are coming, I'm ready for it, but for now we'll stick with the Duke of Juba. Kathy says he's got a lot of loose skin under his belly. Indeed he does, Kathy, he's hungry. All that mating. He's probably going to stop for a quick scent mark on that quarry. Oh, he is an impressive cat. Oh, have you seen something in front, Sen?
Yeah,
There's impalas in front. Can you show me with the camera?
I can't see them in the camera.
Can't see them with the camera, okay. Okay. See, Senzo's sitting a bit higher than me, so I can't see anything. I can just see that he's definitely spotted something. Oh, the squirrel's giving him away. Oh, you could see he almost got angry as that squirrel started shouting at him. Oh, shame, old man. He was like, okay, time for breakfast. Oh, I'd also get a bit grumpy. The impala, I haven't seen him yet, but their heads are up and they are highly focused after that squirrel's alarm call. And now another squirrel spotted him in between the impala. Oof, Kyle says, is it safe to say that Tingana is the world's most famous leopard? I don't know, Kyle. I think Hosanna might give him a run for his money, or actually Karula. And you see him through there. So he's popped his head down, but there's, unfortunately for him, a squirrel directly between. There we go, you got him there. A squirrel between him. We can just see that squirrel's tail. Flop, flop, flop. And the impala, which are just through to the left of us. And now the impala are seriously focused on the direction that that squirrel is shouting. A little bit to the right there, Sins, I think. Oh, to the left. There we go, you can just see it, impala leg through there. Oof, the squirrel's come out. He's getting very upset. He's right on the edge of the branch now. Tingana is still stationary. Annoyed tail flick. Leopard. Now Romit would like to know what is my favorite Tingana sighting. It was actually quite a while ago, and it was just in this block where he is now. He's moving again. No, he's lying down, and he's going to try to play the patience game. I'll move the car now. So my favorite Tingana sighting was about 100 meters from here. We'd been tracking him all morning, and he'd been on the move, and we were struggling to keep up with him. And Tax and Orby had been helping me, and then the Nkumas were found, so they went off, and I carried on. Dave was on camera, so I parked just up ahead here, and I was walking looking for the tracks, and I saw Tingana catch a male impala on foot while I was tracking him. I think that's my favorite Tingana sighting. Then I sprinted back to the car and got into the car, and we got there before that impala was even dead. Speaking of impala, they've disappeared. So he's lying down. I'm just going to try find a way to get in there. Hello, Alyssa. Alyssa would like to know, why exactly does the squirrel give away his location? Well, Alyssa, squirrels are fond of predators, and they will alarm to let other squirrels know, but also the other animals know to... Oh no, he's decided he's on the move again. Okay, let's go back and go around so I don't have to crash and bash through the thickets. So it's called an alarm call, Alyssa, and it's to notify, well, other squirrels that there's a potential threat around, but other animals will take heed of those alarm calls, like those impala that were here and now they've disappeared. I don't think they saw him because they didn't start snorting, but they were nervous enough that that squirrel was making enough noise that there was definitely something potentially dangerous here. Now, squirrels will alarm at lots of different creatures. They'll alarm at leopard, lion, hawk eagles, snakes. So often you follow up on squirrel alarm calls and they are at something we're not looking for. A small raptor might have just flown past. Now you might see there's a bit of blood on his neck when he turns. There we go. Now, oh, hello, big boy. I wonder if anyone can figure out where that blood comes from. Can you zoom in a bit more, Sense? On his neck, just below. There we go, about center frame now. Are we at full zoom?
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of blood there. If you can figure out what that blood's from, hashtag SafariLive. Hello, big boy. Oh, he's very hungry and very much on the hunt at the moment. The squirrels are obviously irritating. There we go. Nice to find Mr. T. I remember actually another great Tingana sighting. Ooh, Natural Sweet Tooth thinks it's from his lady, the blood. I don't think it is. I don't think it's from his lady. But I was saying another great Tingana story. It was actually the first time I ever saw Tingana, which was near Treehouse Dam, and I'd been tracking him on foot. I'd spotted him, and he didn't like being walked at all. Then he slunk away, and I went back to the car, and I drove into where I'd seen him, and couldn't find him. And then I think it was Kirsten, who's the director this morning, was the director then. Kirsty said, okay, well, if you can't find him, I think it was linked to James. So I got out of the car and I was talking to the camera saying, okay guys, I'm going to go see if I can find him on foot again. In the meantime, over to James Hendry. And as I linked, Andrew Francis, my cameraman, said, dude. And literally there was a fallen log like this. And I was standing right here on the car, and Tingana was 1.5 meters from me, hiding under a log right behind me while I was saying, okay, I'm gonna go walk. Yeah, there we go. Kirsten remembers that. Kirsten was the director. That was the first time we saw him. I saw him on Juma. This was the first time I tracked him on foot, but since then I've been very lucky. I've found him on foot many times. I'm going to stop and see what's down the valley. Oregon Way. Oh, there we go. We can actually get a bit of a closer look at that blood now. This guest, was it because he was scratching? Awesome. Was it because he was scratching himself? You are spot on. I think there was one of those big fat grey ticks, and he scratched the tick and it popped. Now, if Tingana is roaring, it might bring in Hosanna. Hey, old man. He's a very vocal male leopard, Tingana. Zephyr says, sing for us, Tingy, sing for us. Okay, well, I'm definitely going to sit here with the Duke of Djuma. Let's go see where Tristan is and what his plans are.
Well, we're on Chitwa. We unfortunately have tracked the Nkrumah Pride off onto Nkoro, so they've gone eastwards, sorry, should I say, all the way down that way. One of those cats somewhere in this general vicinity. They obviously are cats that move around on the fringes of Djuma, and they come onto, just saying hello to Sharp, who's the Chitwa landowner, and they come onto these kind of areas, and often from the south, sometimes obviously Kuchava from the north, and so it's always a good place just to check and see what's going on and to see kind of who's around. And we haven't spent much time with Chitwa of late. I think about last year in comparison to this year and how much time we spent here last year. It was a lot more, and it was because obviously Hosana and Tamba and Tingana, they all sat around the Chitwa area and towards the sort of beginning of this year, whereas now it seems like they're all kind of avoiding Chitwa at all costs, which makes me wonder as to whether there's a different male that's moving around in this area that we just don't know about. Maybe that skittish male has kind of asserted himself here, and that's why all of the boys are staying northwards, and why we're not seeing much sign of sort of Kuchava coming here, but more of Sibui sort of moving up. I don't know, it's an interesting kind of thing. Surprised by the sort of movement of them. Nanabi, where do the cats go? The rain starts, so they don't really go anywhere. Remember, they're territorial animals, so they spend a lot of time within their territories. It just becomes harder to find them because when the rain starts, there's obviously water all over the place, which makes it much easier for them to find a drink. You know, at the moment where it's so dry, we just go and check the water points, and generally you can find some sort of track going to and from those points. So you look at Tingana at Buffelshoek Dam, Hosana is often at Gallagher Pan or Vuyatela Pan, you know, so they're utilizing water because there's very little else. It's also where a lot of the other animals are going to drink, and so you get high densities of prey items, whereas in the summer months everything just goes poof and spreads out, and it becomes a lot then trickier to find them because they're not moving towards water, which means they're not leaving tracks or being seen at water points. They're kind of able to kill things and then still stay within the block, and to be able to feed and drink water is not very difficult for them. Now, it seems as though there was some zebras around here at some point, so we'll have a look out for them. They might be around. I'm also hoping that we'll get some sort of sign of some leopard tracks. Now, somebody who doesn't need to worry about leopard tracks is Brent. He's still following Tingana around, and I wonder where Tingana's off to next.
Well, he's made us do some serious off-roading. Bless you, Senza. But there he is. We've managed to get up on top of the bank of the Mwati, which he leapt up with feline grace. We did not. We might have wheel spun a little bit to get up there. Barbara would like to know whether a dominant male leopard has ever selected his successor. Unfortunately not, Barbara. That would be lovely, wouldn't it? But it just doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. You're going to scent mark right here. Listening. As I said, he's very hungry. The squirrels are not giving him the opportunity. They keep shouting his presence out loud. How are we going to get through here? Now we're going to have to loop around. Now, he's stopping on the edge of the thickets, looking to see if there's any potential prey up ahead. I'm just going to get on the other side of Chelepan because he's still moving. There he is. Dilby would like to know, what does his recent mating mean for Tandian cub? Dilby, absolutely nothing. The only thing is there was a female within Tandi's territory, but that is not uncommon. When female leopards are looking to mate, they will often move 2 to 3 territories out of their natal or home territory to mate, to make sure they mate with any male that might possibly come into contact with their cubs. Now it's going to be interesting to see which way he goes. Is he going to head towards the Vuurtela Dam, or are we going to head towards Philemon's Dip? And is he going to take us on a really rough ride through this quite thick area here, or is he going to be nice and walk down the road? Ah, there's a herd of elephants behind. That's what he's just seen. Herd of elephants behind us. You might be able to hear the branches breaking. Just hear them. Well, that is definitely going to aid his decision. He's going to want to avoid those ellies. And it looks like he's going to take us through the rather difficult area rather than down the road in the easy path. See, there we go. The ellies I was talking about. You can just see them off there. There's still some in the thickets just ahead of me as well, but there's one out in the open. Okay. Okay, while I navigate through this slightly more difficult area, let's send you back to Jamie while we keep up with Tingana.
We found Hosanna's tracks outside of, or close to where we expected to see him, let's put it that way. And he cut through in a sort of easterly direction. Now, Brent and Tingana are not far from where we are now. So one thing we'll have to make sure that we do is avoid him, because Tingana does not like seeing people on foot. He tends to immediately duck down and move away. So some leopards are comfortable with people walking around them, others are really, really not. Tingana is one of those who is not comfortable at all. But we've got tracks for Hosanna heading in that direction, and I'm wondering if he hasn't done his usual Hosanna thing of going to go and find his daddy and spend a bit of time with Dad. He might also have... You okay there, Dad? He might also have snuck down into the Mulwati. So there's this very dense river area, dried up riverbed for our newer viewers. The Mulwati is a dried riverbed that runs all the way through the centre of Djuma, and it's the perfect place for leopards because there's lots of dense vegetation, lots of big trees. There's Rex over there. He's helping us track Hosanna. And at the same time, there's lots of prey. because a river system, there's more water close to the surface, meaning that the vegetation is richer, meaning there's more herbivores, things like nyala, kudu, all the sorts of things that Hosana likes to eat, bushbuck. They all hide in there. So that's why it's such a fantastic place for leopards. Tingana is a bit further to the south of us, in or just coming through the Mulwati, for exactly the same reason, presumably. So I'm just going to check along here. The problem with a day like today is the light is so horrible for tracking. Okay, the sun's just come out just to disprove me, which makes life a lot easier. But when it's cloudy, when the light is flat and grey, it becomes harder and harder to discern one footprint from another. Now, it's very easy with something like an impala, because their tracks stick out very clearly. I mean, if you look at that, that track is very, very clear. Immediately apparent as an impala due to the shape. It's quite a sharp, pointed track. And at the same time, they're rim walkers. So the edge of the track is deeper than the rest of the track. They literally, as the name describes, walking on the rim of their hooves. So that's very clearly impala. Now, impalas stick out nice and clearly because their feet are quite sharp. I'm trying to work out if Rex is whistling at me to tell me he's got tracks. No, he's saying come. Let's go see what he's found. So we're going to try and walk as quietly as possible. I don't know what he's seeing. It could be Hosana. I don't know what this means. He's telling me that something this big is over there. Probably not Hosana. Unless he's... Ooh. Okay, Dave, I'm just going to try to find your way through here. What do you think? Do you think you can come through here? I'll try and do it as quietly as possible. Let me duck through. Okay. Let's have a look and see. Whereabouts? Somewhere in there. I think Rex has spotted a tiny kingfisher, probably a malachite, but it could also be a pygmy kingfisher. Almost as dangerous as the scrub bear. I'm glad we walked in very quietly. Rex has found it again. Poor Dave is sneaking through. Every time we try and creep up on it, it flies away. I can see it took off from that branch there. It's gone this way. Was it a pygmy? I want to see it. I want to see it. I've been completely distracted from our search from Hosana. There it is, there it is, there it is. Ooh, Darby, how can you see him? If you go through the dead... Oh, you horrible little thing. Well done, Dave. Bravo. This is not the easiest task on a bushwalk. And Dave, of course, is handheld cameraing. I don't think that's a verb. Handheld cameraing. It's a terrible way of describing it. Where have you gone? Sometimes the best thing with birding... Thank you, Mario. I'm glad that you saw him. Well done. Well done to Dave as well for managing that while on foot, while creeping through a tamboti thicket. So we're standing in a tamboti forest. I'm going to stay still because it might actually come back again. But we can have a look at the surroundings while we're here. These trees often grow around these sort of riverbed areas and very, very important ecologically. So it's one tree that you'll notice when we drive around off-road. You will have seen it with Brent and Tingana, how he will drive over certain trees. We will not do so with tambourtis. They are a protected species, and they're also very, very important. Do I see it there? No, that's something else fluttering. Come back, little kingfisher. All is forgiven. I really need to sneeze. It's stuck. It's quite disconcerting. It's sort of... I know I need to look into the sun. I'll do that later. So Tambuertes, a highly toxic tree with very toxic latex, but one that certain animals love to eat. Porcupine, for example, or black rhino. That is not the kingfisher fluttering there, Dave. I don't even know if you... I wouldn't try it. It's going to be almost impossible. Oh, little kingfisher. So it could have been, honestly, it could have been a malachite and it could have been a pygmy kingfisher. I'm thinking maybe malachite. The good news, you say it was very orange. They're very brightly coloured birds. And kingfishers are brightly coloured birds mostly. The pied kingfisher is very beautiful, but only black and white. But things like the woodlands kingfisher, which will be returning to us, the malachites, the pygmies, they're also very, very beautiful birds. Maybe if you ask Brent or Tristan nicely, they'll show a picture of what we were trying to show you. Because they're special little creatures. And the pygmy kingfishers will probably only have just moved back into this area. Oh, well done, Rex. Sharp-eyed. So now we're going down into the riverbed itself, which is always something you need to be careful of. Typically, we don't walk through the middle of a riverbed. And the reason that we don't do that is because if you encounter a leopard or a lion or worse, a herd of elephants or a buffalo, you've now trapped their one way out. They might be blocked going that way, and you're surrounded by steep sides on either side of you. So you've completely removed any escape route for both yourself and for the animal. It's a big wide riverbed, that's different. You're absolutely fine to walk through the middle. But ideally what you want to do is move through it, across it, and then up onto one of the banks and track from there. Otherwise you might find yourself in a perilous position. Fortunately, we're going to not be in a perilous position. We're going to be in a good position to go and find Hosanna. Brent, however, has had to work hard to keep up with Hosanna's father. Let's see how that's going for him.
Well, we're trying. He's gone into a little river system that we can't drop into, but his general direction has been towards where we are. I'm just trying to see if we can have a look down the river. We might see him. Oh dear. Where? Is he gone in front of us? Oh dear. Okay, so you saw him here, it sounds? Okay, hold on. Flying High would like to know, why do big cats never cover their scat? Well, it's because they're big cats. They don't need to. Smaller animals, like smaller cats, will often cover their scat to try hide their presence with... You see him? He's coming straight to us or up there? Is he standing? Senzo can see him. There we go. Well spotted, Sens. He's definitely hunting at the moment. He's looking for probably a nyala around this little river system. But the squirrels, go away birds, are all shouting at him. So it was amazing to watch him. He slinked past those elephants. He dropped into this drainage line just to get around the elephants. There's one of his nemesis on top of that tree there, Sens. You see there. Stop shouting. Earlier they were shouting incredibly at him. and grey go-away bird. He spotted something behind us. He's acting like he can see something behind us. I can't see anything. I'm having a look now. I can just see squirrels. Isn't that pretty though? He does enjoy a good termite mound session. I think I have... Oh dear. Sorry, Kirsten, I have managed to pull my earpiece out during that crossing of the river. Can you go again? Guy is asking, doesn't his sawing alert potential prey to his presence? Indeed it can, Guy, but he's quite far from where he last sawed. We're probably already 800-900 meters, so it's unlikely that any potential prey close to him here will know exactly where he's moved to. Of course, it's a fine line to dance. Do you saw to make sure you don't get any illegal immigrants, other males in your territory, and you also still need a meal. I think he's just listening. There's some oxpeckers calling, so there could be some inyala or kudu in the thickets behind us, but we're gonna sit with him and keep our patience pants on. Right, let's go see how Tristan's doing in his search.
Well, not good really. We've seen very little this morning. In fact, I have seen nothing since the last time you saw me, and not even, well, I saw a mangy impala, that's what I saw. But other than that, it's been very, very, very quiet. Not much happening. Lots going on the far eastern side of Torchwood, but unfortunately we don't get signal there, so can't really head in that direction. But there's a pack of dogs apparently, a pack of, they say, something like 16 or so wild dogs on that side, and there's also the Torchwood Pride that's moving about right in the southeastern corner. So interesting. We'll see kind of, maybe, hopefully our luck will change and things will come further towards our area. Oh, there's an impala. Hello, impala. Yes, something with a heartbeat is quite pleasant to see crossing the road. Of course, they'll cross the road and that'll be the last one, and it'll go into dense thicket and we won't really see much more. It's the story of the morning so far. But hopefully things will change. Sorry, Seb, I don't know why Jigger won't stay in gear. Kyle, are there places in South Africa with antelope and no natural predators? No, there aren't. And the simple reason for that is that mostly where there's antelope, there will be things like jackal, there will be caracal, there will be various other predators, even leopard for the most part. So there's always some sort of predator around. Birds of prey will take babies, big pythons. So it doesn't always have to be a cat to be a predator of antelope. I mean, obviously there are areas where there's farmed antelope, so that are farmed for the venison industry. I suppose those are pretty predator free in that they try and keep the predators out. But I mean, there's no natural area where there's antelope that there's no predator. They are, unfortunately, these guys are shouting this morning and irritating my ear. I feel like there's blood about to come out of my ear. It's always the case when there's a wild dog sighting. It's just chaos, and people just constantly feel the need to talk and update every 5 seconds. But anyway, sorry, there's, like I said, there's not really many places that are natural that won't have any predators. Even us, I suppose, we're also a predator if you think about it. So really, no, there isn't anywhere in South Africa where an antelope can thrive without a predator. unfortunately. It's not ideal to be an antelope, is it? You don't really want to be one, I don't think. It must be a nerve-wracking experience being an impala. Can you imagine being a lone male impala walking around in these kind of areas? It must be awfully frightening. I don't think I would really want to be one at all. Or maybe a little Thompson's gazelle in the middle of the Masai Mara must also not be a very pleasant experience. Now, unfortunately, also no signs of Tundi. What we did find on Chitwa, actually, since I last saw you, was tracks for a female leopard, but going into vessels, and so kind of crossing out of Chitwa. I suspect that must be Sibui. You know, that's kind of where she's been hanging around, is the vessels, Hoffman's kind of area, and so right in that southwestern corner of Chitwa, that would be roughly where Sibui and the cubs would spend a bit of time. Or cub, should I say. But yeah, unfortunately we couldn't really follow the tracks much. They just came onto the corner of Chitwa and then turned into vessels from the south going kind of in a northwesterly direction. So that was a bit of a bummer. But what we're going to do now is, I think, let's try and head, I don't know where Brent drove this morning. I suspect quite a lot of the west. So I'm going to go just check Gallagher Pan in case little Hosanna is at the pan. Maybe he's having a bit of a drink there. If there's nothing there, then we'll take Gallagher's shortcuts. I just want to pop into that Gallagher shortcut hyena den, because that also had a few tracks going in and out of it in the last few days. So just curiosity, want to go see if maybe that's being used. And then from there we might pop in back at the Aubrey's den. I know it wasn't active when Brent went, but things can change and you never know. Maybe with a bit of sunshine they've arrived back there and we'll be able to kind of see them. So that'll be the kind of plan, I think, is just to try and scratch around and see if we can find something. It's been very quiet otherwise. There's been not even any alarm calls to follow up on, and all the tracks seem to be going the opposite way to where we need them to go this morning. They're all kind of tantalizingly there, but then go into places we can't get to, which can be infuriating and frustrating at the best of times. Right, now talking about finding things, Brent is obviously still with Tingana, and seems as though he's been keeping Brent busy this morning. So let's find out where they are now and whether or not they're still going through the thickets.
Well, it almost looks like he's seen something, but I'm not 100% sure whether he's just decided to take a rest on top of this termite mound. Now, it's a scrub hare. I just saw a scrub hare run up about 50 meters to the south of us, but now I can't see it. It's gone into the thickets. I think that's what he was watching. I think he was watching that scrub hare. That is a bit of a small snack for you, big man. That's exactly what he was watching. He could be watching something that we can't see. He's sitting quite a lot higher than us, and we're right down in the base of a stream bed. Sands. Wait, where are my binoculars? No, that's not the scrub hare. It's a stick. And I say he's really hungry. It's quite cool this morning, even though the sun's starting to pop out now. See, there's definitely something that's caught his attention. See where he's looking. He's looking back and behind us. I'm just going to stand up quickly. I can't see anything. I can't see anything behind us. I'm going to say he's probably good 2 meters or so higher than where we're sitting. are you looking at? Can't be a scrub hare. Can't be that much focus for a scrub hare. Well, you never know. Okay, well, let's say we're going to keep our patient pants on and continue to sit here with the Duke, and let's go see what Jamie's found in a tree.
I found flowers in a tree. Really, really beautiful flowers. Now, I know that we're meant to be focusing on finding Hasana, but his tracks have vanished, and I'm really actually just quite enjoying a stroll through the riverbed. And to stop and look at little details like this is the joy of being on foot. To be able to do this, to actually focus on the beauty that is often hidden from our eyes when we're driving along. And these are really, truly stunning flowers. Earlier on, what actually attracted me to them was the furious shrieking of a sunbird who was here feeding. Of course, sunbirds are kind of like the equivalent of a hummingbird. They've got those long bills and they use it to reach in and eat the nectar of a flower like this. Now, in this case, it belongs to a boerbean, a weeping boerbean. I've been trying to work out, I thought, when I looked at the size of it, I thought perhaps it was, and we've actually got a couple of sort of trees wrapped in it, which is just going to confuse matters. But if I find you some leaves, where's the, sorry Dave, I completely walked straight in the middle of your shot. I found leaves that were a good example of boerbean leaves. There we go. The others are a bit damaged, but this is a nice example of a boerbean leaf with its leaflets. There we go. That's the tip. Oh, sorry, Dave. There you go. There you go. So that's the typical shape of boerbean leaves. Now, I thought at first it might be a dwarf boerbean, but I don't think so. I think it's just a slightly mangled boerbean that tried to grow in amongst the rocks of this riverbed, because there is actually a large boerbean off to the right of me. These are the sorts of trees that leopards love to climb up into. So that's an adult big boerbean. And of this time of year, they get their name weeping boerbean because, as I said, with the sunbirds coming to feed on the flowers, they produce such a prolific amount of nectar, that it actually drips down off the tree, hence the name weeping boerbean. Nothing to do with, like, for example, the weeping wattle, where that actually is connected to the presence of spittle buds. I give up, I can't talk. Spittle bugs that tap into the sap of that tree, and they... That was an elephant. Was that an elephant or the sound of a zip? I should be able to discern between the two of them. Yeah, I can see Rex over there. He doesn't seem to be too concerned. I'm pretty sure it was an elephant. I think it was an elephant. We are quite close to Chelepan, and that's what it was. Oh, I might go find them in a little bit. There's an elephant trumpeting. What was I talking about? Oh, spittlebugs. Tapping into the sap of a tree and then secreting, basically processing the sap so quickly that it almost runs through them directly. They get all the nutrients out and they just drip water. And that it's completely different to why weeping boerbean is called a boerbean. Boerbean, farmer bean, coffee, seeds, pretty self-explanatory. Yes. Carol, I was trying to work out if those were seeds in the middle of the flower or if they were flowers that haven't yet opened up yet. Nice. Let me have a look. I think they're flowers. Sorry, they're not seeds. They're not seeds. They're just flowers that haven't fully opened. They are flowers preparing to be flowers. Baby flowers. Buds, as they are sometimes known in the English language. Flowers preparing to be flowers. Great. I narrate nature. I'm really, really fantastic at it. We're going to start moving towards, now we're back in the riverbed. I've spoken about perhaps not doing this because, of course, we're about to walk into a herd of elephants. So we're going to go find ourselves a nice, safe spot to do so. And just to add insult to injury, I wasn't listening to what Kirsty told me Tristan had. I will be reprimanded later, but Tristan's got something he'd love to show you.
Well, don't worry, Jamie. It happens to all of us, and we all get mad about it. And we all make these kind of faux pas where we don't listen carefully. But we've got a few impalas and some zebras. I was hoping they would stick around a little bit longer, the zebras, as they were at Gallagher Pan having a drink. And as we arrived, they all started to walk away, unfortunately, because it was very pretty with them kind of lined up around the waterhole and the impalas around. But everyone seems a bit nervous, to be honest. I wonder if maybe little Hosanna cat hasn't been sitting around in this area watching everybody, and that's why they're a bit kind of jumpy, because they've all kind of every now and then just sort of run off, and it's as though they're picking up a scent of something. And I suppose he's been here so much over the last few weeks that it makes sense that there is a bit of a lingering smell of leopard in the air that makes these guys all a little bit jumpy, especially the male impalas. They seem to be very, very jumpy at the moment. You can see, oh, just a dove just gave that impala a fright. Right. Anyway, well, poor impala. Let's send you back to Tingana, who's about to give something else a fright.
Well, he's definitely seen something. We can't see anything yet. I did hear some scrub hares a little bit earlier. Oh, did see. Oh, there's a duiker. I've spotted it. It's quite far away. On the opposite bank. That's what he spotted. It's a little grey duiker. That is what he's been staring at so intently. So I'm just going to try to duck my head because he's going to try to walk through my head. He's still quite a long way away from that duiker, more than 50 meters. Look at that focus. So the duiker is actually coming closer to us. It doesn't realize he's there, but he's got quite a lot of open ground to cover. Can you see the duiker, Sense? Okay, you see that knobthorn, that dead knobthorn? So, a little bit higher. There we go. Okay, a little bit up. There we go. You can see it middle of the screen. There we go. There's the duiker. So, probably about 40 meters. But what's not in Tingana's favor is there is a huge amount of open ground across this dry riverbed that he's got to cover to get there. Nola says the anticipation. Indeed, Nola. Patience, patience, patience always pays off in the end when you're out in the African bush. There he goes. He's covering the ground quite quickly. The duiker is not looking this way at the moment. Okay. We're just going to have to move the vehicle a little bit now that he's far away from us, and then Kirst, I think, will be ready. Okay, he's ducked down into the little low-lying area there. I'm going to try and get us some height, and also still keep my distance so as not to interfere. So when following a hunting animal, leopard or lion, it's very important not to drive directly behind them or anywhere that you might disturb. Okay, so I think this is probably our best spot. We can't see him at the moment, we can only see the duiker. He's using the very low ground at the bottom of this dry riverbed to inch closer. But as I said, I think that dike is just a bit too far. So, do you see the duiker there, Sens?
Yeah.
Near the next to the Timbwiti tree.
No, it's moving away now.
Karen is asking, is the wind in his favor? It is. Oh, what is that duiker doing? It's going backwards and forwards. Oh, I think it spotted him. I think it spotted him. It came down. So if you come wide here, Sins, and this is another one. So if you see that tree there, the duiker started coming down into the riverbed, then suddenly took off. So I think it spotted him. It's still there. The duiker.
Yeah.
Was that maybe a different duiker? Okay, that's quite far now. Let's have a look. I haven't been able to see Tingana. As I said, we don't want to.
It's probably Nyalas as well.
You see Nyalas as well.
It's there.
Where? That is in Nyala. Yes, it is. Sense. Where are we looking there? That's quite a long way away, though. Okay. So it's always very difficult in these situations. Of course, we don't want to interfere, but we also want to see what's going on. So sometimes we have to park in areas where we possibly don't have the best view, but we also want to give this animal the best chance of catching its prey and continuing to behave completely naturally. Okay, so I don't want to drive down to where he is, where I think he is. So I'm just going to try get a little bit higher, see if I can see down into this low lying area. Now, strange enough, the last leopard sighting I had here was Hokamuri chasing Hosanna in this very spot. This is such a difficult spot. Okay, I've got an idea. Can you see him yet, Sens? Not yet. Oof. Think we can do it, Sens? Try sneak onto this little pinnacle, so keeping on the high ground, just make sure I don't lose the cameraman. It's quite, as I said, it's quite difficult country up here. Well, down here, because we are up above the little river system at the moment. And I think this is the only way we're going to be able to get ourselves in a decent position without disturbing the Duke or the Nyala. You see him? You want forward? Senzo spotted the Duke. I'm just concentrating on driving very slowly. Ah, well done. So we're in the spot now. Can't really... That's as good as it's going to get for now. So there's a whole little herd of Inyala off to the right here. You can see them on the edge of this little river system. But 1, 2, 3, 4... At least 4 or 5 there. Lauren is asking, what is the biggest thing Tingana could take down? Probably a female kudu would be my guess. And he is right in the base of the riverbed. Okay, we're just gonna show you where he is quickly, and he's quite far. He's still focused. We're going to keep, as I keep saying, the patient pants on, but Jamie's found some elephants on foot.
We've had a couple of really, really nice elephant sightings on foot recently. Tristan and Taylor, I think, won the sightings of the week with their Ellies. We found ourselves in a nice position. She's actually going to start moving right towards us. was just checking to see whether or not she'd seen us. The nice thing is, although it is quite windy, which typically isn't the best weather to approach elephants on foot because they get quite nervous, the wind is perfectly in our favor. And we can actually watch her. We're probably about 70 yards away, give or take. And we can actually watch her feeding. Now, when we approach animals on foot, the idea is to use our skills and our stealth and our knowledge of their behavior to do so in a way that they're not aware of our presence, or at the very least that we don't impact their natural behavior in any way. So this kind of situation is perfect. We've got plenty of escape routes. We've got a very steep termite mound. Well, not a termite mound, actually. We're sitting on the bank of a riverbed, different riverbed to the one that we were in. And this was the elephant or one of the elephants that we heard a little bit earlier when we were standing looking at the beautiful flowers. Franklin's, I'm talking. Shush. The spurfowl's making a racket. Now, unfortunately, you won't be able to hear the sound of the elephants feeding from where we are, because it's windy. But never mind, a Tingana is hunting and other opportunities have come his way.
Now he's completely flat against the ground. A herd of Inyala is actually moving towards him inadvertently. So Kirst, if you want to, we can ask our friends on the interwebs to join us. Look at him go. There's Inyala coming closer and closer to him. Hello and welcome live to the Greater Kruger National Park in South Africa. We are with a big male leopard named Tingana, who is hunting a small herd of Inyala who haven't spotted him and are inadvertently walking closer to him. He's waiting for that right moment. There's also two young Inyala, which would be ideal prey for him. He's trying to use all available cover to sneak up closer. Now, remember, we are 100% live, so you can ask me questions about what we're seeing. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I've got my friend Senzo on camera. Let's get back to the leopard. Here we go. He's getting very close now. He needs to be under 10 meters away to make a successful charge. And he's also got to hope that he doesn't get spotted by one of the other Inyala. Their eyesight is very, very good. Oh, look at that. He's getting closer now. Now, the Inyala have no idea he's there. We cannot move the car now in this situation, otherwise we might disturb the hunt. We might attract the Inyala's attention just by starting the engine. So we're going to have to wait here till he makes his rush, or the Inyala spot him and start alarm calling and giving off that bark. But it is very, very exciting. This male leopard, Tingana, is the dominant male leopard in this area. He's quite old, about 12 years old. So coming towards the end of his tenure, but for the moment he's in wonderful condition. I wonder if he missed his opportunity as they were going through that little gap. And now some of them are putting a bit more distance between him, and you can see he's almost trying to think, oh dear, which way to go? How can I do this without being spotted? What he might do is he might come back down towards us into the dry riverbed and use that as cover. there were 5 in Nyala. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. There's still 2 more at the back that we can't see at the moment. I think he was hoping there were 7. I think he might have missed his opportunity, but let's just stay here for a bit. See where those last 2 in Nyala are. Donna says these are such amazing cats. Indeed they are, Donna. Yep. He's given up. Silly boy. You missed your chance there. You can see the way he's moving, his whole body language, his whole demeanor has changed. And he just missed his opportunity. But we're going to keep following him, so you never know if he might hunt again. Oh, has he spotted something else? Or is he just being extra cautious? No, he hasn't. He's just making sure there isn't one last Nyala for a snack. So unlucky for the big Tingana. I'm going to keep following him. So remember, we could go live at any time. For now, from Senzo and myself, goodbye. Oh dear, those in Nyala don't know how close it was. Okay, well, we're going to continue to sit here with the beautiful and big Mr. Tingana. Let's go back to Jamie and those elephants.
A happy day for the Nyala and a happy day for us. Not such a fortunate morning for poor Tingana, who doesn't seem to be having much luck. Our elephant herd is slowly moving off. That big female that we were looking at when you were with us earlier has started leading the herd in the opposite direction to us, which is great, better than her leading the herd into us. But that's typically their behavior, because what they're doing is they're actually feeding into the wind. So the wind is blowing from them to us, and they're moving into the wind. That way they can smell what's ahead of them, and at the same time for feeding purposes, because of course trees release tannins as a defense mechanism. Oh, there's another big cow there. Oh, nice. Irene, elephants are certainly one of the most intelligent animals in this area. Whether or not we would call them the most intelligent is a tricky one, because how do you measure intelligence exactly? Certainly their brain is about 3 times the size of ours, and they are very clever animals. I mean, that's why when you're approaching elephants on foot, if they do see you, chances are they're going to sum up the situation and think it through, whereas something like a buffalo or a hippo reacts very instinctively, very immediately. I think that in terms of the more intelligent animals, and again, measuring intelligence is a tricky thing, I would say that you're probably looking at elephants, hyenas, and baboons, and probably also monkeys as well, as some of the more intelligent species. I happen to think leopards can be quite bright in their own way. There's a spark of, particularly with the youngsters, there's a spark of something very entertaining and quite playful about them. But elephants, hyenas, baboons and monkeys, I would say. But again, intelligence is all relative. The famous quote that I can never remember about, fishes and climbing trees or something applies here. That was clear as mud. If you don't know the expression I'm talking about, you'll have to help me out. I know the one I mean. Something to do with you'll judge a fish as... I can't remember. It's all relative, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I'm very coherent today. I made more sense when I was talking nonsense about the scrub hair. Elephants are very bright. Scientifically, they've been shown to have certain nerve pathways in their brains that only humans, great apes, and whales have. And it's all connected to emotional development, their emotional interactions with each other, as well as their spatial perception. So for a big animal, I'm so scared Darby's going to go tumbling down this really steep hill. I'm a bit scared I'm going to. I'm worried the dirt's just going to slide out from under my feet. I'm going to go flying down into the riverbed. Those nerve paths, you'll never see an elephant that is clumsy. The youngsters play, of course, and sometimes they fall down. But when you watch adult elephants, they don't walk into each other. They don't bounce off each other like a giant game of dodge 'em cars. They don't fall down. They don't step into holes. They've got a very, very acute awareness of the world around them and their own physical size. Which is why with their trunks they can pick up something the size of a toothpick off the ground. So they really do. I mean, even though they've got some massive blind spots, so to speak, like, for example, underneath their heads or behind them. I mean, they're bulky animals. They're still very much aware of what's going on around them. That one female that was feeding initially, I thought she looked big, but then she walked out into the open, and she's heavily pregnant. I think that baby might be coming along any day now. This is so nice and peaceful. The one thing I've got to make sure to do is keep shifting my position ever so slightly, because otherwise what's going to happen is one of my legs might actually fall asleep. And it's one of those things that we want to be cautious of, so that we don't, if we need to move quickly, find ourselves falling flat on our faces. I was going to make a joke about Tristan knowing all about falling flat on his face after he fell out of the car. Let's go see what he thinks about that.
Well, yes, I did fall out the car, and it has been joked about. Well, it's okay. It happens. Well, it doesn't really happen, but it happened, should I say. Why are you laughing, Sebastian? Sebastian's just giggling behind me. Sebastian was saying now that he was on leave when it happened, and he remembered watching it with his wife and his kids, well, a kid, and he said he laughed a lot and made his whole day. I think you and everybody else, the voice notes I got from Rebecca on leave was also quite something. All I had was this cackling. She couldn't even speak. She was incapable of speech at that point. She was laughing so much. But anyway, like I say, one of those things, nothing we can do about it. In the past, it will forever be around, and exactly, it is what it is. It doesn't matter. I don't lose sleep over it, if I'm honest. It was funny, and I laughed about it just as much as I think everybody else did. And we thought we'd just come one more time to the hyena den in case they decided to come out in the sunshine, but alas, there is still nobody at home. These hyenas spend less time at their den than any other hyenas that I've ever witnessed. You go to the Elephant Plains den sites, and there is always a hyena around. Maybe not the little ones, but there's always one milling about somewhere. But this particular clan, it just seems like it's very hit and miss, unless you're, of course, like I say, you're Jamie Patterson, in which case they are here every single time. But there's definitely not anything happening today. You can see the pathways are quite well worn, and there's definitely signs that they've been here, but just nothing for them at this point. We'll have to try again another day and just keep going. Eventually we'll get this right, but the hit ratio at the moment is very, very, very bad. We are not doing well in terms of our percentage. I think this must be about 15 visits or something stupid like that, and not one sighting. So we're blanking on our sightings at the moment. We haven't even recorded one for myself. Seb, have you seen these little ones yet?
Yeah, the other day with Jamie, 2 days ago.
Even Seb's seen them. He says he saw them with Jamie 2 days ago. Yes, if you want to see hyena cubs, just go with Jamie. If you don't want to see hyena cubs, come with Tristan and Brent. I don't think Brent's seen them either. The two of us have not done well when it's come to checking the den. Like I say, neither of us have done ourselves favors by kind of coming here at the times that we do, but you know, such a hit and miss lottery as to whether they're going to be here or not. You sometimes get it right. Yes, Kirsty, it's because leopards is what I generally focus on. We know. And leopards and hyenas don't really mix well, do they? But they both got spots, Kirsty, so surely that should I should be able to find these guys at their den. Surely? Though I did see a hyena this morning. I should be able to spot them more, you're right. But alas, I'm failing. I'll be better, Kirsty. Kirsty always tells us we have to be better, so I'll be better. Well, I'll try to be better. Whether or not that will work, I'm not quite sure, but we'll try and be a little bit better and try and see if there's maybe some way we can find hyenas more often. Kalina, yes, I suppose it is possible they could have just moved completely, except that Jamie saw them there this weekend. Twice. And so did James. So it's just me and Brent by some kind of... And there's also lots of signs of them. If you look on the pathways, there's tracks going up and down for hyenas. So they're still around. It's just, like I said, timing is wrong. It's off, luck. It's the way it goes at hyena den. Sometimes you go there and there'll be hyenas everywhere and it'll be awesome, and other times you go there there'll be very little. So we'll just have to keep trying, and eventually you'll get it right. Eventually we'll see a hyena on its den and with its little ones. Yes, exactly, Lauren. I'll have to go after drive with Jamie, or I'm just going to jump on Jamie's vehicle one day and just go and see them like that. But no, I'm sure I will find them. I'm pretty sure it's just, one of those things. You sometimes, like I say, you'll get lucky and you'll find them every single day for a week, and then other times nothing. I know that there was a period when I first got back from leave where none of us saw them at all, and we were driving around and didn't really get any views. And so, I will get them at some point, and I'll just go and rub shoulders with Jamie for a bit and get some of her hyena luck, and then head back out again, and hopefully that will work as well. Seb, I blame you. It's your fault. Because you've seen them already. Now that's the universe is saying, well, you've already seen them, you don't need to see them again. So I'm blaming Seb for this one.
We see that every day.
Kirsty also agrees as well. Sorry, Seb, you're on a hiding to nothing. Right, well, we're going to keep looking around, see what's last minute things we can find. While we do that, though, let's send you back across to Brent and the Duke.
Well, a rather despondent-looking Duke sort of seems to be ruining his decision-making process this morning about where to position himself to get a baby in Nyala for breakfast. Oh dear, Tingy. Oh dear. But he's in a good spot. There's a good chance that some other poor, hapless beast will wander up to him. And, he's walked quite far. I think, where did the guys have him last night? Buffelshoek Dam. Probably a good 3 or 4 kilometers from where he was left last night. And he is hungry. I'm pretty sure he'll be around for the sunset safari as well. Tired kitty now. Nana B says, what animals in Africa resemble each one of the crew? Oh my goodness, I have no idea. Senzo? No idea. Well, we know James Henry is a blacksmith lapwing. Skinny legs and makes a lot of noise. Yes. Geraldine and Dave are both the sheep from that Zootropolis movie. Jerry is the evil sheep with her curly hair, and Dave is her evil sheep henchman with his curly hair. Trying to think. Senzo? What's Senzo? White-tailed mongoose. With your dready hair thingy there. Yeah, I think white-tailed mongoose. You've got mange. Senzo just says he's got mange. No, this is a mane, Senzo. This is a mane. That is not a mane. That is a half a scraggly dreadlock. Senzo has only dreadlock half his head. He does look a bit silly. Mr. Q-Chip says Jamie is an Inyala. Actually, Senzo, if okay, you can have a mane, but you are the mangy Mungens, because you've only got half a mane, not a full mane. Let's try to think now. Romit reckons Senzo is a Scorpion King. No, I'm sticking with a mangy Mungen male. Aegis says Senzo is fast and agile like a scrub hare. Everything eats you, Senzo, if you're a scrub hare. Just trying to think now. Trying to think of this. Michael says I'm a dwarf mongoose because I can't sit still. I must be a giant dwarf mongoose, Michael. It's just under 6'4" and what's it? Over 200 pounds. It's a very big dwarf mongoose. Tristan, what's Tristan? Monitor lizard, or calm and slow moving. Kirsten's an albino dwarf mongoose. Kirsten says, why? It's because you're a ginger, Kirst. Albino dwarf mongoose. Why a dwarf mongoose? Because you're small, Kirsten. You're little. Aren't you the shortest in camp? It was very funny. Kirsten's always thought she's big. Ah, yes, we do have a new member who's a bit shorter than Kirsten. Kirsten must be quite happy. She's been the shortest for quite a while. Since Megan left, I think. Vaz says Tristan is an unimpressed wildebeest. You can actually see him snorting. I'm trying to think now. Who else? Chris says James is a honey badger because he's full of it. No, so are blacksmith lapwings. They're also full of it, lots of noise. Honey badger's too quiet. I'm trying to think about the cameraman now. We've already covered the evil sheep, David, and Senzo. Sebastian is a French-speaking animal from Gabon. Let me think. French-speaking animal from Gabon. I'm trying to think now. Not red river hog. Maybe a red river hog. Nah. Olgabees Dyker. Sebastian's an Olgabees Dyker. Do I have any blondies in camp, Kirsten? I can't remember. Blondies in camp? No, can't think. Anyway, let's see if Jamie's got any better ideas than I do. And while I do that, I'm going to move around to the other side of the drainage to get a bit closer to Tingana.
There's always a difficult question, isn't it? Because there's what you want to be, and then there's what's actually truly representative of you. And those two things are often very difficult, or very different. I always think of Steph as a big bird of prey. Something like a battalier or a rose eagle. Oh, I smell popcorn. It's making me hungry. I think this is where Tingana walked. Ah, Lily, who is our 7-year-old viewer, Lily says that all of our cameramen are like birds of prey because they spot things. And they do. They have eagle eyes. You are absolutely right, Lily. If Darby were a bird of prey... what's your favourite bird of prey, Darby?
I like a dark chanting goshawk.
I was thinking goshawk for you, actually. Dark chanting goshawk. I think if I were a bird, I'd be a shikra. Something sort of small and fiery-eyed. But again, what we think and what we are two different things. Darby suggested serval for me. I'm always an antelope. It's something about me apparently that is antelope-ish, which of course is not what I want. It's not what I want to be compared to at all. I want to be something more awe-inspiring, like a... Can't think of anything now. Ah, Sebastian wants to be a secretary bird. That's a good one for Seb, actually. We'll get him a little crest that can blow in the wind as he's driving along. So Sebastian wants to be a secretary bird. Umkar says that Craig is a bat, obviously, because he is Batman. I think it depends on the mood as well. I can be a honey badger, or I can be a nyanyala, or a serval. Or, on odd occasions, especially in cold weather, a tortoise. Quite like a little nap on cold winter days. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification, Kirsty. Tweety has suggested that I am a cheetah. Kirsty has clarified that we are referring to the animal and not someone who breaks all the rules in board games. I like cheetahs. I actually think of myself as a leopard. I think that's just because I like leopards. Brent is a wild dog, or a male lion. Rex is a leopard. Rex is a male leopard. Viam, of course, was the solitary dispersal male. And although we call him the wildebeest, I think he was a male leopard as well. I don't know. It's always a difficult one. I'm definitely not an elephant. That much I can tell you. Okay, well, I mean, I've been coming up with quite, I think, quite flattering descriptions of people. No one was very nice to Tristan in all of this. I think Tristan would definitely be something cat-like.
I'm not sure, Jamie. I don't know what I would be, actually. Well, I certainly don't think I'm a monitor lizard, to be honest. I feel like Brent is just having a bit of a go about that. But I don't think would be a monitor lizard. What do you think, Sebastian?
No. Disagree.
Sebastian disagrees as well. He reckons I wouldn't be a monitor either. So, I don't know. We've played this game before, and I can't remember what my last answer was. I said I would like to have been would I be a leopard, a male leopard? So you reckon I'd be like Tingana? So I believe all of you are voting leopard. Seb says I'm too social for a leopard. You reckon, Seb? I don't know, but leopards are shy. Hosanna. Hosanna's a cool cat. I like Hosanna. He's got a good demeanor to him and he's social. That'll be good. Anyway, it's that time of the day though that we're going to be heading back home. We're going to start slowly heading back for breakfast. It's been a good morning for some, for Jamie and Brent. Us, on the other hand, have had a bit of a tough one, but that's okay. We'll bounce back this afternoon. Hopefully we'll be able to find little Hosanna talking about him. Anyway, from Brent, Jamie, myself, all the cam-ups, Kirsty and Final Control, it's been an absolute pleasure and we'll see you all this afternoon for the Sunset Safari.